Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and welcome to another Enclave actual play. I have the mission generated in advance this time, so we won't be doing focus words and such on camera. Instead, after we have our players introduce themselves, I'll read out what they gave me. But if you guys wouldn't mind, please do introduce yourselves, your Enclave history if you wish, in very brief, and also where people can find you if you have anything to plug.
Righto. Well, I am Gemini Starfielder. I have been on an actual play video before, just before the official release of Advent Edition, but I've been playing Enclave for considerably longer than that. Quite old legacy players would know that used to be Skypeclave. I was around back then. So, yeah, I've been playing the game for a long time, and I very much enjoy it. If you enjoy me, I am on Twitch at Gemini Starfielder. There's a little bit of an underscore there, but link should be in the description if Robbie did it correctly.
Thank you very much.
Cool. My name is Dave, aka Detour. I just started playing Enclave and TTRPGs in general last year, starting with an actual play here on the server. And I love it and have been having an absolute blast, and I play as much as I possibly can, which is why you keep seeing me showing up in these. I am also a tabletop board game designer. I'm working on a game called Scrapbots. It is a bot battling deck builder. Learn more at scrapbots.gg.
Awesome. And that's going to be debuting sometime soon, and I will be plugging it as much as I can when it does. And lastly...
Hi, I'm Dennis. I've played Enclave all of once in the past, and I'm very, very excited to play it again. I am a tabletop TTRPG content creator, performer, streamer, all the things. I have too many fingers and too many pies. If you want to see all the stuff I do, you can go to my Linktree, which is link.tr.ee/OkayestDM. That's my handle in most places, Okayest__DM, and you can find my YouTube channel, OkayestDM, where I make mistakes running games so you don't have to.
Lovely. I'll try to get all that in the description. All right, my friends. Here's what they gave me for focus words. I'll give you the focus words that they gave me, and then we're going to talk about their characters, because this is a very special group. Something we have not yet seen on an actual play and have rarely seen, if ever, on the server. Namely, three of a kind. 3 players all playing the same class. But man alive, are their characters different. So, let's go.
We promised we didn't plan this in advance until the characters were chosen.
Yeah. First of all, from Gemini, I received the focus word, a jack of none. Very interesting to start. Then... from Dennis, I received colder than usual. And lastly, from Detour, I received champion of chaos. So, pretty cinematic focus words there. And I'm pretty pleased with what I came to. It's a fairly comprehensive mission statement, but before I jump into it, let's hear about your characters. Same order you introduce yourselves, give us an overview of who you'll be playing.
Right. Well, I'm going to be playing Red. Technically, her name is Rain Elise Duran. She's the daughter of my legacy character, Zechariah Duran. She is, of course, a gunslinger. And she has quite a fun stat block. 3+ to sensory, 2+ to reflex, and 3+ to skill. So that's very enjoyable. She also has a bonus to standoff, wherein when stopping an enemy, that enemy becomes more amenable to suggestion, as it were. Her elective item is the coach gun, and as far as appearance, she's a white fur and blue accented anthropomorphic canine, somewhat like myself, just different colors. Very slim profile, about 5'10", and yeah, that's about all you need to know. Her kind of coat, instead of like a zipper or buttons, it uses a gear system to open and close.
Excellent, thank you.
All right. So I will be playing Crow. Crow is also a gunslinger. You may have seen him on previous actual plays, but he is hailing from a wild or a weird West background. So very familiar with like the supernatural and possibly even some sci-fi. His backstory is that he was basically kidnapped at a young age by witch hunters who killed his mother, who was a witch, and so has a very rather strong distrust of magic. Despite the fact that he is a magical entity himself, he denies this. I reflect this in his stats, and that they're distributed across physical stats. So that's me kind of seeing him as a physical adept, sort of channeling his magic through his body. Yeah. Oh, I have a fun special item here, which is this coin called Bad Penny, and I have a perk that relates to it that lets me kind of pull off little magic tricks with it, basically.
Marvelous. And lastly,
I will be playing Pike, who I know very little about. I'm excited to figure out, most of his mannerisms, but in general, he's a little bit, he's quiet but confident. He is very wry when he does say something. He is a very simple-looking man with dusty brown hair, a classic straw hat, simple and well-kept coat. He carries a revolver, a shotgun, and a bandolier, all very visible. He has, as far as his abilities go, he has a +1 in Century, 2 in Skill, and dumped everything else into Resilience, with the abilities Trick Shot, Standoff, and Shootout. And something very weird happens when he uses certain abilities. And I am absolutely certain that's going to come up and do some monkey wrench business.
I'd be shocked if it didn't. Now,
From what I'm hearing, this is going to be tons of fun.
well, don't say that till you hear the mission statement. I will.
Oh no!
This one has a lot of names in it. And so
Oh, wonderful!
if you need me to remind you
I'm getting
about
my notes.
names of any kind, that's perfectly fine. And if it's in character,
I'm
for
whipping
your
out my-
character to not remember a name, don't worry about it.
I'm whipping out my notes app right now.
So, you are being sent to a beautiful luxury villa. This villa is located within a very sophisticated Magitech sci-fi city-state called Ontuo. Ontuo is built underneath the floating ruins of an ancient but enormously high-tech city-state that no one dares investigate, and now is almost like a moon that just hangs over the city. And yet, it prospers underneath, adapting some of the old Magitech and also adapting some of its new. It has been thriving and has become extremely wealthy and ritzy. You can think of it like Dubai, is the way I would put it. So a substantial underclass also enables that to happen. Now, within Ontuo, there are many celebrities here, but one of the ones we're going to be focusing on is a fellow named Luxpens. Luxpens is famous for having created one of the most revolutionary devices in this part of the world. The way I'm going to describe it in pop culture terms is an Iron Man suit, or much similar to it. Not nearly as sleek, it's a bit bulkier, but you can think of it as an exosuit of some kind, augmented Magitech, with all sorts of, though chunkier than an Iron Man suit, and makes you a good deal taller, it is quite an agile thing that enables you to travel at great speed using thrusters, as well as its own substantially augmented power. But it does not have weapons. Luxpens has been barred by the city from equipping any of his models with weapons, and yet he doesn't need them. Reason being is Luxpens, as well as a good deal of the other high crust in the city, are very powerful mages, and the suits conduct magic perfectly, allowing them to effectively just bulk out their physique and let them travel conveniently while still using magic very effectively. These suits are called Overidex, or Overidices, if you want to pluralize it properly. Luxpens invented the first one just a decade or two ago. Now, these are still very rare devices and very luxurious. But what's more notable in this case is that Luxpens used his clout to become quite a tyrant within the city, He is pretty much universally loathed, except by people who are his sycophants, and knew enough about the laws to skirt just past what was legal, or just up to what was illegal, and effectively was the bane of everyone's existence for quite some time after inventing this. Eventually, however, he had a child with a now estranged wife who still lives with him. And this child is one of the other of the main protagonists of this story, Lockspens being first. His name is Gast. He has a longer name as well, but everyone calls him that. And he has attended a school for the gifted since he was very young, or specifically under private tutelage. What has been observed about him is that everything that his father can do, he can do better. And that seems to also include psychopathy to some degree. This brings us to present day. All that warned of what happened was a sudden breaking of a window and a jamming of all communication in and out of Lockspens' villa. All of the communications coming in were replaced by a single message: "I'm coming for you." And based on a few little bits of intel that he managed to pick up with some of his other gadgets before those two were shut off, he found that presumably his son is bearing down on him inside of a weaponized Overidex suit. But not just that. He also has a couple others with him. This boy is a preteen. And he has never displayed any ability to rally sycophants in the way that his father has. And so Lockspens has no idea who's working alongside him. But what is known is Lockspens needs to get the fuck out of here. Because of that, you guys are going to be porting into the first floor of his villa, where he is currently terrified and holed up for the moment. You need to get him to the roof of his villa, where his own custom-made, hyper-luxury, state-of-the-art Overidex waits for him so that he can escape. Once he is in the Overidex, he is 100% certain he'll be fine. And even if he dies after that, that's not your job. Your job is to get him into the Overidex by any means necessary. He doesn't care if the whole property is destroyed. He doesn't care if all of his servants and his estranged wife are killed. He wants to get into his suit and out of here. He doesn't care if you kill his son. Do anything you need to save him. The only other thing that is noteworthy is that besides the glass shattering, the only thing that hailed it was ice crystals forming on the panes. And Ontuo is a tropical city. Questions? Excellent.
Many, but none that this is going. This this briefing is going to be able to answer.
Is Luxpins alone in his villa, or does he have his sycophants with him at all?
That's an excellent question. He is not alone in the villa. His estranged wife and his servants live there with him. He normally has an entourage there with him, but does not at the moment. He tried to call them immediately, but that was one of the first things that jammed, was his communications. He did manage to get a message out to local law enforcement via a secure wire. However, given his history, it's unlikely that law enforcement will be here very fast, nor will try very hard to help him. Other questions?
Interesting. So law enforcement is just kind of chill with the siege, right?
Yeah. This place, by the way, is kind of anarchic at times. Ontuo, very much an oligarchy, and because of that, the police are privatized for the most part, and often play favorites very willingly.
Okay.
Other questions?
How many stories are we talking?
Between where you are on the first floor and the roof, just one other story. This is a luxury villa, and so the stories are quite large. There is also a basement section and a number of adjoined structures.
And so presumably elevators, staircases?
Both.
But both. Okay. All right.
The Averidexes, what material are they made of?
That's an excellent question.
Like generally, because I'm sure that Luxpins is made of like some other material, assumably lined with gold, because he seems the type. But like generally speaking, if we have to fight an Overadex, what material are we looking at?
These are very well constructed alloyed metal with polymer compounds in it. The sort of things a single bullet is very unlikely to get through. The Enclave does attest, though, that even if it seems like they are not being damaged by one shot, multiple shots will probably get through the weakest points. So,
okay,
don't give up if a single bullet
yeah.
take one of these things down.
Is there any intel on weak points of the Overadexes? Overades?
Yeah, Overadeces if you want to do the
Overadeces.
That's right.
So the
Overidic codices.
an Overadex is a pretty sophisticated structure, and they come in a lot of different models these days. In general, though, the face area is not where you want to be going. That tends to be one of the most reinforced sections. Instead, you want to hit towards the lower core, around where the stomach would be, if you want to do damage to the suit. Additionally, the suit's back is where it has much of its power supply. And it's reinforced, like it's not going to be easy, but it's easier to get through that to the delicate bits than through to things that it like the design goes out of its way to protect, like people's faces.
Okay. Do these enable flight?
Yes, they do.
Any knowledge about how they fly, like thrusters, I'm imagining? So there are...
Magitech, like, you could think of it as anti-grav, but it's not precisely. It's a smooth, non-rocket powered thruster.
Interesting. So are there orifices of any sort?
No.
Okay. Interesting.
And waterproof, in case you had questions about that. This is overlooking a small private beach, and so there will be water tangentially present.
About Gast, do we know what manner of mage he is? It seems like he's likely in, I think evocation is the right word, mostly like casting offensive spells. Is he more on the like frosty side of things, or like does he not have a preference towards element? Do we know?
Has never displayed elemental or combat-based affiliations in his magic at any point up to this. Much like his father, his magic is entirely confined to the more cerebral, almost programming-like spells that are used in this region in order to create sophisticated magitech.
Okay, so more like almost divinatory then?
Not even divinatory, like technical.
Okay.
His father was unusual for having a small handful of more combat-capable things. Nothing that would, like, properly hurt someone. Oh! Important note! I forgot to mention this. For a couple months leading up to this point, Loxpens has felt his magical talents weakening.
I see. I agree. That's a very important note.
Should have mentioned that one. Pardon. Any final questions?
He's become impotent.
Happens to every mage at some point.
Eventually, yeah. Sometimes, you know, your brain starts going and like you can't get it to work anymore, you know?
Pardon, you were saying?
Have there been any recent changes in the floating city?
No, the floating city above Ontuo has not shown any major changes. I should note that once in a great while, a piece of it will fall off. But there are substantial protections above Ontuo that like redirected into the ocean, which make for these large, elaborate reef-like structures that eventually get colonized by local wildlife and become tourist attractions.
So the place that we're going isn't the floating city. We're on the land-based. Okay.
Beneath the
right.
city that is a tourist attraction.
Okay. That threw me off a little bit because I think I lost focus for a moment while I was writing.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of details for this one. Are you guys, do you have any final questions? I know this is a lot, and I'm sure you'll figure out plenty on the mission.
So there's a lot of like technical magic going on. Does that include influence towards the security system for the buildings? Like, are we looking at like technologically iterative magic?
The building has a rather sophisticated security system. It has everything from like outer-facing shields that will like deploy if there is any sign of threat, to more internally facing ones like security cameras and access panels and stuff like that. The outer shields were breached almost immediately, and the internal stuff is shutting down as we speak.
Mm-hmm. And the internal security stuff, is that all Magitech as well?
Yep.
Like
Everything. And also hand box fence, I should add.
Interesting. Okay, so assuming so it's Magitech, so we wouldn't be looking at like computer boards, we'd be more looking at like crystal foci.
Something along those lines. Maybe not precisely crystals, but definitely not keyboards per se. The sort of thing that maybe Crow would be more familiar with than you or I would be familiar with.
Yeah. Red would actually be quite familiar with like magitechnical things because all of the Grinyu tech is crystallized to some degree.
So in that case, a frame of reference. In that case, are we ready to proceed to assembly?
I believe I am.
Lovely. In that case, as of now, you guys are in character. Assembly is, again, your characters meeting together in Enclave HQ. You know in character everything we have just discussed, and you have an idea of who you are working with, if only a vague idea. Enclave HQ is, as always, beautifully decorated. You have everything that you could ever want provided to you within this meeting room setting, besides, of course, solutions to the mission at hand. But everything is impeccably decorated only in shades of gray. Unless we have a strong suggestion otherwise, I say that Crow and Pike are the first to arrive. Take it away, my friends.
Sure. I think Crow will, walk in, perhaps side by side, like, you're the my partner for today.
Yeah, my first thing. This is gonna be exciting. Ooh, food. And he walks over to the table and like takes a couple grapes, like a whole stem of grapes, and starts just popping them in his mouth.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, don't you worry. Done this a couple times. Got a handle on it.
It would be probably at this point, just because I think it would be funny that Red would appear saying, tell you what, apologies for my lateness. The trains back home were running a bit slow.
I think at this point, Crow's going to look up, see Red, and dive behind cover, yelling, "That's a werewolf!" And like draw his revolver. Like, "Get down! Security!
Huh?
Bring the silver bullets!"
What?
Not again. Look, I've been through this before. I'm not a werewolf. All right, werewolf implies that I was a human at one point, but I'm not. I'm more of like a human-wolf hybrid. There's a lot of complexities about it. It gets into some like religious territory. But look, I swear, she puts her hands up. I'm not a werewolf, and I pose no threat to you, so long as you pose no threat to me. Okay?
It's only at this point that Crow notices that the gun that was in his hand is somehow back in his holster, as Enclave HQ bars all weapons from being drawn on fellow Enclave members while in HQ.
I'll be. All right. Let me tell you something. You see this here?
I thought you said you'd done this before.
I've never worked with no werewolf.
And you
This
still
here-
won't.
Yes, because I'm not a werewolf.
I got some silver here, just in case.
Okay.
You watch out.
A lot of my jewelry back home is silver. I'm not a werewolf.
See about that in the full moon.
There's about to be a lot of background noise. My bird is losing his mind.
I don't hear anything yet. At this point, an Enclave attendant, impeccably costumed and anonymous as per usual, appears at the door and gently gestures for you to join them.
Crow's gonna wait.
Ah,
Go on ahead.
Oh. Red will follow. Give me one moment.
Sure thing. And as Red follows, will Pike do likewise unless he has other actions he'd like to take?
Yeah. Pike's gonna sort of like toss the rest of the grapes back onto the table and walk over.
I was picturing during that whole interaction, Pike is just like halfway through chewing.
It's just Just chewing grapes, watching just this nightmare scenario happen. I'm just like, okay, that thing is definitively not human, but then he tried to draw a gun. What?
And as the group of
I'm
you are
starting to
looking
lose
around-
confidence in you, Crow. Tosses the grapes.
Any responses from Crow?
You work with werewolves, because let me tell you, I've killed
I'm
many
not
in
a
my day.
werewolf.
Well, you can understand why I might make such a mistake. They're quite dangerous where I'm from.
I mean, kind of, but werewolves are usually like immediately feral. I walked in like opening a conversation that's usually a little different, I think.
Definitely the most articulate werewolf I've ever met.
I'm not a werewolf! Okay.
And as you're brought through Enclave HQ with its soaring arches and maze-like halls, you're brought to the teleportation chamber where 3 gleaming platforms await you. A disembodied voice, as per usual, says, "Agents, please take your places atop the telepads."
Red will take hers as quickly as possible.
Yep. Crow will
Pike
take
will
his.
take his.
Keep it an eye.
And you feel your bodies dissociate.
Pike will take his last, but kind of like. Okay.
The second Pike's feet hits the platform, he feels a tingling sensation in his toes, and his body dissociates, one piece at a time, fading away to nothingness until it hits his eyes, and the world vanishes into a kaleidoscope of inverted colors. And then that whole sensation vanishes from you, as the group of you appear spontaneously in a small closet with a heavy metal door. You can see that this closet, it's small enough that your shoulders are like packed together ever so slightly. And you can see that this closet is maybe like a display case or something. It has all sorts of like glass encased objects of interesting origins. Some look like weapons, some look like animal specimens. And the whole thing, while being small and tight, is reasonably ornate. As you enter, however, Red would... does Red have feeling in her tail? Like, I would imagine...
Yes.
In that
Yeah.
case, she would feel something at her tail and then like a spluttering noise from behind her.
Hello?
And looking about, she can see a man batting the fronds of her tail out of his mouth.
Oh, sorry. She's gonna try and like pull her tail. She's going to intentionally pull it towards Crow, and like just kind of like brush him with the tail a little bit.
What? Why?
And as you do so, he says, "Oh, you're here. I'm glad you were fast, at least."
Anything
Yes.
for you, Loxy.
Loxpens is a man probably in his mid-40s. He's wearing like very foreign-looking but undeniably ritzy-looking clothing, somewhere between a robe, a suit, like maybe a kimono in there. It's a very ornate outfit, but he's rather disheveled looking at the moment. He's wearing a pair of pince-nez with a lens cracked, and his hair is a rather unnatural shade of lime green. He looks up at you, kind of like his features are thin, his eyes are squinted, his nose is pointed. And he says, "Anything for me, then. I'm glad to hear that at very least. At least one person has my back." He looks to the other two. He's on the
We'll get you
floor.
out of here.
He's on the floor, tucked
We're
away
all-
against the shelves.
We're all on call here. He's not the only one. We're all here to help you. That is our job, after all.
Good. Well, let's hope that you're not incompetent, like I'm often forced to surround myself with. He starts to clamber to his feet. And as he does so, he says, the door is sealed, and the seal seems to be holding for the moment. I don't know if any of the premises have been fully breached. I fled when I saw the window shatter." He says, "You will, of course, be fully prepared to tackle whatever we may be facing, right? I can give you some details about, well, maybe not the models precisely, but you've been briefed about my inventions, correct?"
Yes,
Indeed.
stringently speaking, I suppose, but we know enough to hopefully take one of these down. I just have to ask, you really think those colors go together?
He looks and says, "Why wouldn't they?"
Oh dear. Well, first of all, highlighter green, not the best color for hair. and said, "What color is his robes again?"
His robes are a combination of white, maroon, and light blue.
And like green and blue. Like if it's like a sea from green and blue, then like maybe. But that
Is this the time for fashion advice?
any time is a good time for fashion advice, darling.
He says, "Trust
She has a point. He looks like a bleeding mermaid.
Yes, and he's also going to be quite a shining beacon of our location.
He says, trust a foreigner to have no sense of fashion or taste. He brushes
Just get you out of here
forward to the heavy door that seals you in here, and immediately brings his eyes down towards a small panel at the front, which gleams briefly. The panel smoothly unlocks, and the door shifts apart, looking almost like a puzzle being taken apart rather than a door sliding open or shut. And as soon as it starts to open, he tucks himself immediately behind Pike, who is the closest one to him, and huddles in place to keep his profile as low as possible. He is a rather tall, spindly man, and so this is easier said than done. And the door opens facing out onto a beautifully decorated but relatively small hallway. Distantly, you hear a couple of thudding noises, a faint whirring, and a soft beeping with a voice saying, "Breach! Breach alert! Breach! Breach alert!" Actions.
Can you turn that off?
And Locksman says, "Why would I turn it off? There's a breach. Obviously, we need to have the breach alarm going."
But
Yeah,
I think
but we only
everyone
need to
knows
be
that there's a
told
breach
once.
already. Yeah.
He says, "What if they don't? What if the insurance company comes by later on and I don't have an obvious claim to file because the breach alarm isn't off? They'll say I tampered with it. Go, move!"
Okay.
Priorities, Loxy, and I'm going to start moving forward, forcing him to come with me.
And as Pike
If he's
makes his
taking
way
cover
out into the
behind me.
hallway goes left and right. The right side of the hallway, he immediately detects there's a good deal more light, like natural light from that side. There are a couple of doors lining the hallway as well, and it smoothly curves both left and right, as though you're not in the straight hallway, it's in like a crescent shape. As Pike reaches out, immediate follow-ups from Crow.
I think revolver drawn, just like surveying, looking for cover, looking for enemies.
Yep, there's a good amount of furniture here. You can see not only is the place is sleek and like the architect's wet dream of like actually futuristic looking houses. It's like that. Very few straight like right angles. Things are curved and sleek and smooth, and there's a lot of different colors and shades and all sorts of interesting geometric shapes. But there's also a number of very foreign-looking antiques and artifacts and pieces, allowing for a lot of cover while also an open walkway through. Left and right, as mentioned, the between the two, right has more natural light, as I mentioned to Pike, but neither has any sign of motion besides a gentle fading orange that pulses in and out from an alarm sensor. Other follow-ups from Crow before I jump to Red?
I think I would just shout out, "Well, what's the closest way up?"
And Lockspen sticks up one of his long fingers and says, "Right to big spiral staircase, left to elevators, probably disabled, smaller access staircase there as well."
Right. Any of those ones that your son doesn't know about immediately?
He says, "Well, obviously not. He grew up here. That would be stupid if he didn't know. And he's not stupid."
Okay. So we definitely shouldn't take the closest one to this location, I would say, because then he most likely knows about the panic room and would most likely be looking for some access point from this location. So we should find a different
He's
spot.
probably looking for me right now. I'd be very surprised if he isn't.
Yes, so we should stop talking and keep moving. What is not necessarily the farthest, but say third or fourth farthest method to get to the roof?
And from here, he points with his long finger and says, "Servants' quarters, entrance, that way." He points left and then straight. He says, "From there, you can go down. They have their own access staircases that go up all the way through the house."
Oh, servants' quarters. Perfect. Your son would never think you to belittle yourself to servantry.
Well,
Let's move.
Obviously.
Yeah, I assumed so as well. You don't need to clarify. Let's move.
Now, if Red is taking point and heading out to the left, follow-ups from Crow and Pike.
I think Crow will hang back. take the rear.
And Pike actions.
And Pike will be protecting Lockspens in the middle.
Absolutely.
Still hasn't drawn any weapons, though.
Quite. Crow has his to bear, and I don't know if Red even has one out yet.
No, not yet. But Red is keeping a quite solid ear out for anything that like sounds like it could be approaching in a hostile manner.
Absolutely. As you go ahead along this curving hallway, you can see it's, again, pretty unusual house layout. The floor rises slightly as it goes, even though there's no steps to it of any kind, and you soon pass a thin window that overlooks the striking tropical paradise outside, with great hunks of debris rising out of the ocean and large reefs with plant life growing all over them. But this sight only distracts Red's eyes for a moment, because soon enough she can see a labeled door, ornate, though not necessarily as ornate, labeled for the servants' quarters.
All right. Red will try the door, see if it's unlocked.
It is a swing-open door, and as such you can go in easily.
All right. Red's going to kind of keep a tight corner and just kind of like peer around the room, make sure that it's either empty or only working staff are in there. As
she peers inside, she finds it's not even a room, it's a landing to a smaller staircase that heads down.
All right. So, like, is it a spiral staircase or is it, like, straightforward?
This one is like a bing, bing, bing sort of staircase that has, the railing also has, like, some machine that's built into it that looks like it might slide things up and down the railing as you're going up. Additionally, you can hear a small skittering noise down below.
Okay. Red is going to look kind of, like, over the... I'm assuming that there's, like, kind of like in how that kind of staircase usually works, there's, like, a slot that you can kind of look down.
Yeah.
Is that there?
That is there.
All right, Rain's going to kind of scope that out and see if there's any, like, motion occurring. Either, like, I don't know if there's anywhere upwards, but both upwards and downwards from the location.
On this staircase. But
from this landing, okay.
You don't see anything immediately, but you do see light moving. So something is, like, coming in front of a light source in some way. And the skittering noise, it doesn't sound metallic. It sounds kind of like, what's a good example? It sounds kind of like a wind-up toy, but much quieter. And bigger.
Interesting.
Immediate follow-ups as Red enters into this landing from Pike, who is taking up the middle space in your little formation.
You hear that, Loxy?
He says, "What? What do I hear?"
Shh. Sounds like one of your suits.
He says, "No, that's not a suit. That's not a suit at all. That's a scudder, obviously."
What do you mean, obviously? We don't know.
Excuse me,
First,
what?
we don't have a semblance of who you are.
He completely ignores Red and says to Pike, "A scudder. Did you not hear me?"
No, I'm sorry. You seem to have a stutter.
And he says, "Oh, I'll better correct that. A scutter, I said," very concisely. And follows up with, "It is a tasking device. Semi-autonomous."
And is it yours?
He says, "I don't know. They all sound the same. I'd have to check."
Let's do that then.
To Pike's ears, less good than Red's, but he can still hear it pretty clearly, and he can hear that it sounds like it's starting to make its way up the staircase. To Red's ears, this is much clearer. Crow, bringing up the rear. Actions from you. You hear this conversation taking place. What else would you like to be doing?
Yeah, just walking up behind, like robots.
He says,
That's
"Robot. That's a rather archaic word."
oh. Is it safe?
He says, "Yes, scutters are entirely unarmed, obviously."
I suppose they're not unspeaking, I suppose would be the word.
No, they can replicate voices.
Oh, that's horrifying, but also, this scutter might be a lookout. Or a scanner of some
Yes,
kind.
that would be possible. He says, "If so, it will have already heard us."
Well,
Right.
then let's go.
Yes, we should probably move then and figure out what it is. Make sure it doesn't report back to whoever sent it, if it was someone malicious.
Heading downstairs.
Take it out.
As you start moving down, Loxpens says irascibly, If that was the case, it would not be continuing to come up towards us, obviously. It would be fleeing.
Do people often tell you you're loud and annoying?
He says, no, they tell me I am assertive and capable.
That's just, a lot of times that's nice speak for loud and annoying. Be a little more quiet. We're trying to hide from people a little bit here.
And as you say this, Red's eyes would be at the front, the first to see the scutter. It's a funny little creature, vaguely spider-shaped, maybe more like a centipede, though. Slightly long, with its legs moving in kind of a smooth wave as it slinks up the stairs. It's about the size of a dachshund. Immediate actions from Red upon seeing it.
I think I see the scutter. It almost looks like one of Bela's creations. Is there anything we should be concerned about?
And he says, well, let's see who's tasked it then, because if it's... And he peers around Pike and says, no, that's mine. That one's mine.
Could your son have control of your scutter?
Yes.
Right, so then it's very potentially dangerous. And in the process of saying that, Red's going to draw her pistol from her hip. It's kind of like balisong style, so it flings out and kind of like rotates on one handle axis and clicks into place.
Yep. And as you do so, the scutter turns at the landing that you guys are heading towards and then starts climbing up a little bit towards you. As you do so, you can see that while I said kind of centipede-ish, you can see that it's like a centipede that has like a top bit to it that kind of smoothly attaches and gently kind of shifts, almost like it's balanced by an internal gyroscope as it moves. It moves up towards you and then starts to slow down a little bit, pretty much coming to a stop just a step or two below you. Actions from Pike and Crow as Red is drawing her weapons slowly and cautiously.
So, to clarify our surroundings, we're in a staircase heading downwards with no windows outside of it.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just gonna kind of like also put a handle on my revolver while it's still in the holster. Pretty much mimicking the same thing that Red's doing.
Yep. And Crow, actions?
I think seeing that these two look like they're ready to deal with the scutter, I'm just gonna watch up the stairwell from where we came, make sure there's nothing catching us from behind.
Absolutely. Crow, remind me your sensory.
2.
2, thank you, yeah. In that case, Crow would very faintly, but only because he's focusing in this direction, hear a distant sound of shattering glass and a very faint thump. Before we go further with that, though, as the scutter comes to a halt, you hear a smooth click to it, and then a voice.
Sir, do you have any actions for us? We're holed up down below, and we aren't sure what's going on. Is this routine? Are we having a skyfall of some kind? Please confirm all systems are down at the moment.
And after a moment, you see Lockspence gives a little nod. He says, yes, that's one of mine. That's my butler.
Oh, okay. Is this an open line of communication, or is that a recording that we're hearing?
It's a recording. We aren't able to have an open line of communication with all the systems down. He says, I can get a message back to him. And then he thinks better of it and says, what message should I get back to him?
I don't know that necessarily we need to get a message back to him. I suppose that's something. But also, we might not need to. We're heading there anyway. You can give it to him yourself.
He says, yeah, that's definitely correct. I was thinking of that.
Yes, especially leaving a message about where we're going on a traceable drive. Probably not the best idea when people are hunting us down.
An idiot would do that.
You were about to.
Absolutely not. And he reaches down, and the scutter climbs up his arm and locks into place, retracting its legs and making like an arm cuff on him. Says, good. At least we have this. That's one asset to mind.
An improvised piece of armor. I like the strategy.
He looks at
Let's continue on.
You just sprouted an additional head and says, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Have you seen an Overadex before? They will crush through any amount of armor.
I've not seen an Overadex before. I've never been to this place.
He says, well, no wonder the city's having a competency crisis. Can't bring in the right people for the right damn job. He pushes past Pike and starts to try to go downstairs ahead of the group.
Red's gonna... Who's closest to Red in this moment?
That would be Lockspence, with Pike just behind.
Of the player character. Pike. Red's gonna kind of approach Pike and whisper, honestly, should we, like, let him die? I'm not super fond of this guy. This place may be better off without him. As you
get closer to Pike, you feel like this sort of heat radiating off of him, and gritting his teeth to reply, I would love nothing better than to put a bullet in him and walk away. But this is my first mission, and I want to do it right.
Fair. Also, you would note that Red is not off-put by the radiating heat at all, because that is something that not only her father would kind of do, but also definitely her mother. So it is very far from abnormal.
Crow, you would hear a snatch of this conversation as you're bringing up the rear.
I'd hear it, but probably more interested in telling them, think I heard something from upstairs. Probably one of them Overidex.
Well then, we best get moving.
Are the group of you going to continue heading downstairs following Lockspence?
Yes.
Yes.
Reaching the bottom, there's another set of double doors. You round the corner just as Lockspence is pushing his way into it, and then just as quickly comes rushing back out of the doors and sprints up the staircase to jump behind you guys. As you do so, he kind of speaks in a motor mouth fashion. That's not very good, not very good. There's ice down there. There was ice when the assault began. I'm not going in there. And he dives behind you on your landing.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that ice forming is a sign of where they are. It could be a wide area of effect for whatever magics they're using to create this. I think that this location is our best bet, and if it's not, you are perfectly safe in our hands. Believe me.
He spits your tail out of his mouth where it has ended up again and says, I'm sure I feel very, very safe at the moment, yes.
It really does not look like it, but we will press forward. Stay relatively close behind us, though.
How do you guys wish to approach the door? Again, it's a swinging door, no lock, no handle, at the base of the staircase, less than 2 paces from that base.
Carefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how are you positioning yourselves around this door?
Left, right, center?
My weapon is still not out. I will stay back with Lockspence.
Yep. In that case, Claire, are you looking left or right of the door?
Yeah. I'll, gesture.
Yeah, Red will stand towards the center and kind of, push the door open very, slowly as to hope that it doesn't, squeak on any sort of rusty hinges, and try to, peer around and see if anything's down the hall.
Okay, and in that case, I missed that. Are you trying to push it gently open, or are you trying to get through, see through a crack or something like that?
So, push it, so... the way that you're gesturing, it's like a double doors that swings on either side. Yeah, so Red's going to kind of push one of them a little bit open so that she can get just until she can get a pretty decent view of inside of the hall.
And as you push open, you are immediately hit with a small rush of cool air that covers one side of your face. Sharp contrast to Pike that you felt just now. And you can see inside is a kitchen, large, sleek. It looks almost like a small modern restaurant, but with a whole lot more gadgets. Peering in, you can only see a snatch of the kitchen, a couple of cabinets, a couple of sink areas, and one big metal table. And you can see that from the table is partially cut off, but isn't the furthest point away from you that you can see through this door. But there is a small creeping spread of ice that comes up the table.
Are there any appliances open, like a freezer or a fridge?
No freezer or fridge open. You can see that one or two appliances are on as though they had not been turned off.
Interesting. I wonder where this ice is coming. Can I tell like where the ice is coming from, like directionally?
It's coming in from out of sight, around.
From out of sight. Okay. So I would assume that from this side, Red wouldn't be able to see like if there's a covering wall that like she could open the door and kind of like look around without necessarily being seen.
No, she cannot see that from this angle.
All right.
Is that Crow and Pike would like to take as Red is doing this?
I think, I'd peer in as well and take a look, but I'm going to let Red take the lead and go in first if she's going to go in.
Yeah, Pike?
Staying back with Loxpen still, and making sure he, quote-unquote, feels safe. And I'll just say out loud, weren't your servants supposed to be in here?
And he follows up with saying, yes, would have been afternoon meal in, and he flicks his eyes up and says, 22 minutes, so they should be working, but I would assume that they have moved somewhere safe, or I would hope that they did. I should note, Loxpence is not whispering whatsoever. He is speaking as loudly as he normally does.
Red is going to gesture from at the door, just kind of like batting her hand down behind her, just gesturing like, be quiet.
As he says this in Red gestures, however, all three of you, I mean, to literally AT&T raising the bar degrees of accuracy here because of your sensory stat spread, hear simultaneously inside of the room a whir and a series of heavy thuds.
Loxpins, do any of your staff have an Averidex?
He says, no. Are you kidding me? Costs more than them and all their families and everything they own put together.
Right. Well, are there any larger automatons that might be staffing this place then?
Before you can finish that line, you guys hear a set of heavy feet moving towards your location at speed from the kitchen.
Red is going to slam the door shut and say, time to back off.
Loxpens doesn't need a second prompting. He is already scrambling up the stairs back from around Pike's shoulder. Before we go further, I'm going to ask her actions very quickly, but my wife has just informed me baby needs a hand. I'll be back in less than 5 minutes. Is that okay with you guys?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Yep. Thank you for your patience. I'll be right back. Take a pee if you need it.
We can metagame.
Yeah, break
strategize.
time. I don't have water, so I'm going to go get that.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I love how intentionally annoying Loxpins is.
Yeah. Kind of want to let him die, but...
Yeah, just a little bit, but it's like, this is the job. He's probably going to die once he gets into the suit because he just kind of sucks. But, like,
Maybe we can sabotage the suit.
Yeah, that would be great. I do enjoy that Crow has been wary of Red the entire time, despite being assured so many times that she's not a werewolf.
Yeah, he's not going to let that go. And he hasn't figured out about Pike yet. But
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be happy about that one either. Crow. We'll get used to it someday. How are we going to deal with these Averidex?
Just shoot them many times.
Wonder if there's anything in the kitchen we can use to blow them up.
I would be surprised if explosive elements are kept in the kitchen.
It's magic, right? So probably just magical burners, right?
Yeah,
There's
I think
no
I
way
would assume
any of us
just...
would actually be able to recognize what they are, though.
Yeah,
That too.
because like Red has some context for Magitech, but definitely not this kind of Magitech. So like it's like this is a whole different ball game. So it's like I can assume that probably does this, but no idea.
Your guesses.
I think it would be very funny if this is just a larger automaton that's just like, wait a minute, Master's here. I must protect.
Yeah. It's a dumb waiter, but dumb waiter is
A
large
DUMB
automaton.
waiter.
Yeah.
Let's jump into action. Immediate actions as Lockspins is scrambling up the stairs away from what is going on. We will begin with Crow.
So I can't see into the kitchen anymore, correct? I'm
No.
assuming Red has
Red
closed the door.
has let the door fall shut.
I think I'm going to move forward, but take a position where I'm still going to take the rear, but try and kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like, if people are going this way, I want to go this way and make sure everybody gets past first.
Certainly. So backing up the staircase a little bit, but still allowing people to move past you, yes?
Yeah. Like, taking point right at the foot of the staircase, if anything, you know?
Absolutely. And so that way the door opening will provide you some amount of cover, but even though you don't have anything great to stand behind in this particular landing zone.
Yeah.
Pike, immediate actions from you.
Chasing Lockspins.
Yep. And
Someone has to do it.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose this guy.
Red, clarify. After your initial actions and letting the door swing shut, where are you going to position yourself? Where are you going to go?
She's going to jump back, keeping her focus on the door. She's going to, about as quickly as she can, holster her gun and pull out the coach gun.
Yep. And as she brings the coach gun to bear, the door flies open, and an Overidex blatantly dominates the entirety of the doorway. Its profile is strange. Its legs have too many joints compared to humans, and rather than its arms coming out like this, they're kind of high up and come out like this, with the head tucked inside of it. So a different profile to a person, but the thing is sleek and elegant and undeniably large and powerful. It reaches the ceiling quite comfortably in here, and you see that its leg joints have to drop a little bit to make sure it has clearance. As it blows open through the door, you can see that it's hard to tell if it's registering anything. It doesn't have visible eyes. It doesn't even have like a visible faceplate, just kind of a smooth front, which is indeterminate where someone might see out of the thing from. But you can also blatantly see the frost gently dripping from its fingertips, and how the air suddenly chills the second the doors fly open. Immediate actions from Red and then Crow.
Red's fur is going to kind of stand up because it's just gotten colder in here.
Yep.
But Red is going to try and figure out, like, is this thing weaponized? Like, does it, like, is it just general observing? Because, like, you said that that Ghasts is like weapon bearing to some degree, so like just like looking, just like generally scanning for weapons.
No obvious weapons upon the immediate look at it.
Do we have a name on his estranged wife?
Yes, her name is Sealy.
I was just gonna say, Sealy, is that you? The coach gun is trained on the Overidex.
And as you are saying that, the hand rotates like 180 degrees on the arm and flicks 2 fingers forward. Crow, immediate actions.
I think seeing that flick happen, I'd probably take a shot at that flicking hand.
Yep. You're close enough that even with the revolver's less than perfect accuracy, you still hit a finger. You can see that the finger, like, the bullet dings off, and you can see that the finger does look like it was, like, dented at the very least. And you can see that the hand pulls back, and immediately it gets lower than either of you are tall, and suddenly lunges forward towards Red.
Oh, shit.
Indeed. Immediate actions from Red.
Red is going to kind of jump out of the way as best she can, but like taking a shot on the Overidex as she does to kind of like use the recoil to push her further out of its way.
Which direction, left or right? You have stairs at your back.
Which hand did Crow shoot the left or the right?
From your left or your right? For you, it would be your left, so it's right.
Okay, so he shot the one on my left.
Your left.
Okay, so then Red is going to dodge to the left.
Absolutely. And what kind of dodge are we talking? Are we talking like dolphin dive here, or are you doing something a little more sophisticated?
Like almost like a sideways back hop, if that makes sense. Like, you know how in a lot of like Soulsborne games, when you try to roll backward, just kind of like hops back.
Yeah.
It's like that, but a little more to the side.
Absolutely. And as you are doing so, you can see that when it launched, it was almost like it launched like a spring, right? It went forward at great speed, and as such, it doesn't redirect its momentum in midair. Instead, landing on and bracing against the stairs where you had just been standing, already turning its body to where you are now. At this point, you are less than 2 paces from it because this is a relatively cramped lower stairwell. You are also standing almost exactly next to Crow. Immediate follow-ups from Crow during the spring forward, and as it is turning with Red jumping for a moment across your line of fire to get out of the way.
Hmm.
Do you need a moment to think?
Kinda, yeah. Let's maybe cut to Pike.
Pike, you were scrambling after Lockspence, who, with not looking backwards, is scrambling up the stairs back towards the landing that you guys first entered to get in here. He still, of course, has the scudder on his arm and is not looking over his shoulder, instead muttering under his breath, "Nope, not gonna die. Definitely not gonna die. No, 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 no."
Well, if you don't want to die, then stop running. There's another one up there.
And he says, "Where?" looking over his shoulder back towards you. And he looks up, and this is the moment where down below you hear the crunch as the thing launches forward towards Red and lands against the staircase. And Lockspence whips his head back around and says, "This one's closer!" and keeps running upstairs.
Red did shoot at it with a coach gun, by the way.
Indeed.
I'm going to just keep chasing him. This guy's the whole point of the mission. We can't lose him.
Yeah. And as he runs up to the top of the stairs and goes to push open the doors, he recoils quickly, and you can see that frost is forming on the door here, too.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hang on. Let me... And I don't have any abilities that say I can do this, but I'd like to try to melt the ice.
How do you wish to do so? What is it going to feel like?
Oh, this is not going to be nice. But with one hand, I will grab the revolver still inside its holster at my hip. And immediately there's like a sizzling as the air begins to smell like burning clothing and skin. And with the other hand, I will grab the door handle to this door.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're going for. In that case, 2 things. First of all, Pike's nostrils would be filled with the smell as well. And his vision would probably haze up a little bit. As internally, I'm guessing, and I'm gonna, if this isn't not what you're envisioning, tell me, because I think it makes a lot of sense. He would internally start to feel a sweltering heat build within him as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The heat starts to escape through his skin.
This is a textbook manifestation right here. And even with 0 pluses to Arcane, you can still manifest. And in this case, I think it's quite appropriate. You can see that as you place your hand against the door, the ice starts to slowly retreat at, visibly, at a visible speed, right? And there's a hissing noise as a little bit of vapor rises up from it. Lockspence stands back. You don't know what facial expression he's making, given that your vision is cloudy and you're focusing on the door. But what do you want to do from here after it has melted to some degree? Noises of chaos are down below, but you're too in the zone to really pay attention to them.
I'm going to open it very slightly. I can't really see right now, so I'm going to listen through a crack of the door.
And as you listen in, you do hear thumping, but it's a little ways away.
All right, I will open the rest of the door the rest of the way, and
as you push. There's resistance, and there's like a cracking of ice as you manage to shove it open. It had been sealed shut.
I will not turn around to look at Loxpens, but I will say to him, "Follow me."
For the first time, he doesn't say anything in response. Before we go further, back downstairs. Before I check in with Crow, I had a clarifying question for Red. Where were you roughly aiming your shotgun blast?
Roughly just at its chest, right? Because you said where the stomach would be, and that's like up near the heart. Did you mean more like where the small and large intestines are?
Yeah, pardon, the guts. Better way.
Okay. Yeah. So I would Red would be shooting there for like the lower abdomen.
Yep, absolutely. And Crow, do you have actions that you'd like to take?
Yeah, so this thing is still coming, right?
Oh yeah, it has launched across from the entry point to the base of the stairs where the two of you are, and instead of like crashing into the stairs, it has landed smoothly with its arm bracing against the staircase to stop it from just barreling into place. Its body turned to face the two of you. Crow would be able to see slightly better than Red because Red is midway through jumping out of the way. That Red's shotgun blast does seem to have scratched at the very least the stomach area, but since it had got low before launching itself, it was not nearly a direct hit.
Okay, but now it's kind of more standing up.
Yep, and then it's turned its body such that from your perspective it's looking at you like this. Okay, after I died again, Dennis, I'm telling you right now, this has only ever happened with you on a mission.
Well, that's not entirely
Not saying
true.
it's your fault, but you know.
Robbie, do you remember when, I don't remember if it was my first or second mission, I don't remember what we were trying to use, but it just wasn't working and we had to switch to Google Hangouts instead.
Yes, I do remember that. Okay.
Did your PC shit itself again?
No, this time it was just my camera that shit itself.
Yeah. Because you like bent down for a second and then your camera cut again.
Yeah, this is...
And I was like, oh, a second time.
I'm going to blame cleaning my office today. I should have just lived in filth like I normally do, and that would have made nothing go wrong. Okay, let's carry the fuck on.
Change the feng shui of the room.
Yeah. Crow, let's try to get that action resolved, shall we? What do you want to do here?
Okay, so as he turns towards me, I'm going to pull out Bad Penny.
Yep.
I'm going to flick it towards him, trick shot off of it. And for my Hexed Shot perk, I want to pitch that it's like a liquid nitrogen sort of like frost blast on him to kind of like leaning off of the frost stuff that he's already doing.
Yeah.
And I want the angle to be towards his weak point, the guts.
Okay. And what is going to be your flourish for the trick shot?
Ooh, so yeah, taking out the coin, flicking it is one part of it, but also revolver out. It's going to do a quick like.
Yep. A spin and a quick hammer fan in order to fire it off.
Yeah.
The shot goes off, but at the same time, as Bad Penny is struck, pinging in midair, there's a great puff of thin white haze. Immediate follow-ups from Red. You have leapt to Crow's side. The two of you have the wall to your back, stairs to your right, the door a little ways to your left, and the Overidex immediately in front of you. Actions that you would like to take as this puff of white goes off in front of you after Crow does his trick shot.
Is the puff of white smoke obscuring the Overidex in a way that I wouldn't be able to stand off with it?
Not to your triple plus sensory.
All right. So Red is going to train the coach gun quite handily onto the Overidex's abdomen trigger standoff.
Yep.
And for the suggestion, it is going to be, answer me. Who are you?
Now, Crow, two things of note. First of all, you saw that after your puff of white appeared, adding to the cold of the room that you guys are in, you do see that your bullet, rather than pinging off of it, seems to have lodged in it. Maybe not deep, but you did get a bullet into it. It entered from a slightly high angle. It seems to have gone down and into that gut area that we were discussing. Second of all, as soon as Red activates the standoff, you can hear the against the ground as it was going to lunge for the two of you and then literally is forced to stop by the standoff. Third of all, as Red says this, Red, you feel the standoff hit, You make your suggestion. There is no response whatsoever. There's not even body language response. It's like it was starting to move and then just frozen solid. Not literally. There is still enough slight ambient movement to it that it has not been like frozen up by the frost blast.
An automaton? I thought these were manned suits.
Crow, actions or responses to Red.
Yeah, I think in response to Red, I'm like, might sound right, and I'm going to reload 2 shots as I am advancing on it.
Yep. As you approach up to it, you can see that it normally standoff would not like completely stop something from doing anything. You know what I mean? Like standoff is not like an all-encompassing ability like that. However, Crow, as you approach, you see that it doesn't make any move to like bat you away or step away or anything like that.
Taking a look at the gut section, can I see anything? Mainly looking for any fluids leaking, blood, ideally.
And peeking in, you can see where your bullet lodged. It got in like maybe a centimeter at an angle. You do also notice that the material this thing is made of, I don't know if Crow would have seen plastic before, but plastic isn't a good analogy for this, and nor is metal. I think it's smooth, kind of like fired clay, but at the same time it's like a little bit pliable, kind of like plasticine, maybe even cloth could be a parallel. It's a very strange material to his eyes, and you can see that his bullet, while it has gotten in, it clearly hasn't gotten deep enough to do any serious penetration.
And the shotgun blast damage, anything from that?
The shotgun blast, you can see the nicks and scratches that were across it. Something he notes, the places where the shotgun blast hit flat against it, it seems to have done minor scratches, if nothing else. The places where it's hit at an angle, it has gone in.
Well, looks like it absorbs the damage better head on, so if we're going to do anything, do it at an angle. And I'm going to try and find like a seam, an angle, anything that I could weak point.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I can find.
As you're surveying, however, Red, you would notice the Overidix's, one of its 2 hands is slowly flexing its fingers.
It's starting to move again. I am ready to shoot, if necessary, but you should probably not be super close to it.
And Crow, actions.
Yeah, just start stepping back, but trying to like see where Red is aiming and try to like be ready to back it up.
And having scanned over this thing a bit, it has a skin to it. Not like a human skin, right? But like it seals the seams quite nicely, such that the thing moves with a fluidity that you wouldn't normally see in a robot. You can see, though, that one of the reasons that you were told about the gut area is that is the only place that has a visible seam of any kind. But like the joints, the limbs, the hands, those seem pretty well protected, at least from a seam perspective. But undeniably, they also have like smaller bits to them that might be bashed through easier. The one place you haven't seen is the back. Before we go further, Pike, upstairs. Actions that he would like to take after pushing open the door and cracking free the ice that was binding it.
Sorry, ask it again?
Pardon. Actions that Pike would like to take after the follow me that he gave to Loxpens having pushed open the door.
He's still looking around, trying to find the source of the other thumping, supposedly another Overidix.
Yeah, is his head out the door?
Yeah.
Yeah. In that case, like I said, the wall leading up to this place was crescent or somewhat circled, right? And because of that, you can't see down it far enough to get like a full view of what's going on in here. You do hear the thumping again, and you can hear it getting slowly louder. But the other thing that you can see is that the ice seems to have sprung from where the corner of the ceiling meets the wall here. It's like it bloomed out of their like slime mold and then crept down and sealed the door.
Huh. Interesting. Come on. And no longer like steaming and hot, he's going to weapons holstered slowly make his way around the corner.
Absolutely. Are you going to be heading back in the direction of the trophy room that you guys ported into, or are you going to be heading to, that would be to your left, or do you want to head to your right, which was another staircase, or in this case an elevator and an access staircase he indicated earlier?
I don't want to actually make any decisions on direction until my companions are with me. Otherwise, we'll get separated.
Certainly. So what does Pike want to do?
More
Does he
than
just
we
want to step
already
out
are.
into the hallway and hold position for the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah. In that case, he would hear the thumping getting closer from his left, down in the direction of the trophy room.
Okay.
As he is doing so, Red and Crow, follow-up actions from the two of you, with Crow just being warned away from getting too close to the Overidex.
Sorry, is it follow-up actions from Crow or follow-up actions from me?
From both of you, but we'll start with Crow.
Sure. I think I'll just say, all right, let's take her out.
Assuming we
Fair enough.
can. Also,
And-
roughly how, like, this is just like a logistical thing for me. Roughly how tall is Crow, and would Red have found out his name by now?
Oh, good point. He's about 6 feet tall, and I don't think so.
No, you haven't mentioned it.
Unless it's like
All
in the
right.
dossier's pre-mission or something.
I leave dossiers up to player discretion, so if you think it would be more interesting for Red to not know it, then do that.
No, because I wanted Red to give Crow a nickname. If he was any substantially shorter than her, he was gonna call, or she was gonna call him Little Bird.
How tall is Crow?
Yeah, about 6 feet tall.
So taller.
Yeah, and Red's about 5'10", so
There you go.
so that wouldn't work. But
No
so
Big Bird
Red's
then?
yeah, Big Bird.
I was just thinking the same thing.
No, I don't think he's substantially taller to the point that like that would be a fitting nickname. But she'll say, "Right, get into the kitchen. See if you can find anything about where this thing was. It seemed to be a bit off to the right. Yeah, I think you said it was in the kitchen."
Yeah, that's where you were able to look into the kitchen, so there might have been more going on.
Yeah.
You gonna handle
And,
this on your own then?
Well, I'm a bit agile, unless you think you're more agile than me.
It's your funeral. He'll start to back away.
Backing away into the kitchen?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And
looking back.
so I presume that the metal of this thing is still at least relatively frozen. Like it's still like kind of like struggling to move a bit.
It is still struggling to move. It has been flexing its fingers and now starts to manipulate its hands and other digits. It seems as though like it's reconnecting with its ability to move.
So in this moment, kind of registering that like if this thing is made of a hard material, if it's colder, it's more brittle. She's going to activate Shootout
Yeah.
and just start unloading into this thing's abdomen.
Okay. And what she at this point is like 3 paces away, which is freaking close for a shotgun. But does she want to get closer?
I think her range right now is probably about where she's comfortable.
Excellent. And in that case, the standoff drops as plows into this thing. The first 2 hits, it seems to shrug off, but before it can start lunging towards you properly again, the 3rd and 4th hit seems to crack through, at least to some degree. The frost that was produced by Crow does seem to have brittled up its body, at least a little bit. Enough so that as you crack open that stomach abdomen abdomen section, not only do you actually see splinters of its chassis starting to fly off and fall apart, but also you see liquids starting to pour out of the middle.
Does it appear to be blood, or does it
No.
look more like coolant?
It looks like antifreeze, maybe? Like blue water.
Coolant.
Well, maybe not coolant, but definitely something close. And Red's gonna kind of like jump out of the way before it can continue its lunge.
Yeah. And as she leaps out of the way, are you going to be continuing to just blast this thing until it stops moving? Because that was my impression.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, and after another couple of blasts, it's way less agile than it was. And after another 3 or 4 shots, you can see that its legs like scrabble for a moment and then just stop moving. And it's starting to drag itself towards you with its arms alone.
Well, that's not horrifying. Is it moving like pretty fast with that, or is it like
It's
kind of
not
like crawling
terribly
along?
slow, but it does seem to be moving slower than when you first fought it.
Okay. Like would Red have enough time to like run into the kitchen with Crow?
Yes, you would. Absolutely.
Yeah, Red's gonna run in with Crow. Just more bodies, the better.
Yep. Now, before we get to Crow in the kitchen, sounds like a cooking show. Before we get to Crow in the kitchen,
Crow in the kitchen. It's a health hazard, is what it is.
Right. Let's talk about Pike. Up above, you had been holding position for that one moment. You had heard the thumping coming in, and then you hear the like multitude of coach gun blasts from below in the stairwell.
Jesus.
What does he want to do?
What is our ward doing?
You can see that right now, Loxpens is positioning himself such that you are as much in front of him as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as the shotgun blasts start occurring, which is kind of behind you, he whips around you so that now you are as much in front of him as possible in that direction.
You just gotta... I'm okay. We're fine. Just gonna have to deal with it.
He looks up at you from down below, where he's literally like grabbing your shirt to stay as close to you as possible. And he looks up at you and he says, "Maybe you're fine, but that sounded like an ordinance, and those are forbidden, and as such I'm getting nowhere near it."
Yeah, well, good thing it's ours, obviously, and not yours.
Of course, I wouldn't break a law.
Then why are you scared of it? Your protectors are firing ordinances. Think a little bit.
Well, yes, and yet, here I am, under assault, in my own home. This is a criminal act, and criminals are very inclined to break other laws in the service of breaking another one.
Criminals like Gast?
Yes, if that is the career path he has chosen.
Courier path? Why do you think it's your son that is attempting to take over your villa?
Well, he frowns for a moment, and then he says, I single-handedly programmed and created every single mechanism within this place. There's only one person I know who has any understanding of the way that I build systems. And there's only one person I know who would have any idea of even the slightest inkling of how to undermine those systems.
And the voice that was broadcast when your systems went down
was mine.
Did you
a very
recognize
funny
it?
joke.
Okay, that actually is kind of funny.
Don't humor him. He's 11 and will often get ideas if you tell him or encourage him about such things.
Hold on. He's how old?
He's 11.
11.
Yes, obviously.
So you're terrified of an 11-year-old.
You would be too if he had a machine that could break your neck effortlessly.
Don't you also have such machines?
That's
Let's
why
get
we're
you
going to the
one.
roof to allow me to access mine, dolt.
The arm he's grabbing begins to warm up rapidly.
He immediately gets his hands off of it. He says, do you need a bath or something?
Desperately.
He says, well, if you do well at this, I will give you a day pass to my personal spa.
Good.
Down below, you hear the doors swing open again as a set of footsteps run into the kitchen. You also hear the clanking, crunching, grinding noise of like presumably the Overidex, but it sounds much less smooth than it has sounded up until this point.
All right. I can't trust you to stay here and do nothing.
No, of course I'm
My
not going to stay
companions
here. That would be
sound
suicide.
like they might need help.
He says, well, that's too bad for them because they're supposed to be helping me. They can get help after.
All right. Do I have a communicator of some sort? It doesn't look like I do.
No.
Oh, he does, though. Tell you what, program your stutter or whatever to tell those two down there that we are headed upstairs and we turned right at the first intersection.
It's a scutter, but that seems like a sensible idea. He brings up his arm to his mouth and whispers into it and relays your precise message in his snappish tones.
So you can whisper. Oh my God.
And as he does so, he says, there. And he brings up his face to it, and you can see there's a little flash as it maybe scans his eyes or something. And then it jumps off of his arm and starts to whip downstairs.
All right. Now let's get away from that other one quickly. And I'm going to turn right.
Yep.
The opposite direction of the sound of the other Overidex.
He keeps his mouth shut, for now at the very least. Down below, Crow, you have made your way into the kitchen. It's, like I said, a large room. A lot going on in here. Connection points off to pantries and also to other basement areas that you're not sure of the purpose of. But also, very presently, there are two people in here, both of whom are frozen solid in blocks of ice that jag up around them as though they spontaneously erupted from the floor. You see one of these people is a man. His eyes are wide and he looks like he's midway through a shout. They're both wearing, both of the people here are wearing like colors of light blue and white. And the other one is a woman who looked as though she was midway through carrying an armful of towels and is tumbling over backwards with the towels in midair where she and they all froze solid.
Well, hope they had life insurance. And looking around, can I see where the Overidex may have came from?
Yes, after just a moment of scanning, you see there's one pretty obvious place, obvious because of its footprints in the frost on the ground. That being a little thoroughfare off to the left, small enough it probably would have had to like get down on the ground, like or get low to go through it. That leads to a hallway that is labeled staff quarters.
Now, trying to remember what our luck spins had told us. Is this where the way up from down here is?
He just said down through through the servants' quarters. There's a way up.
Right. So I guess I'll head toward the servants' quarters.
This is the point where Red comes into the kitchen behind you, also seeing the scene that you saw, and not far behind Red is the remains of the Overidex pulling itself along through the door behind her after her.
I thought you were going to deal with that.
That's about as far as I got. These things are tougher than I expected.
Now it's dragging itself towards us.
Yes, and you can see that its large, segmented fingers literally dig into the solid floor to get purchase to pull.
Is there anything that I could kind of like parkour off of to... Basically what I'm trying to do is sort of kind of run towards it, parkour off of something to get behind it.
Oh, easily. Stools, tables, kitchen counters, all sorts.
Yeah, cool. Then I'm imagining, a kitchen counter or something, like run towards it, vault off of it, do a quick little roll and end up behind it.
Absolutely. And then rolling and ending up behind it, you can see, or both you and Red can see that as you did so, it tried to make a snatch for you, but from its kind of prone position on the ground, it wasn't even close to doing so. And now it's kind of turning to face Crow with Red now at its back.
Can Red see its power source in any way?
Red would see that its shoulder blades and like lat area would be like oversized and bulging.
So like still covered in metal.
Yeah,
but,
still covered
like,
in its weird like semi-metallic skin.
Yeah.
Immediate actions from Crow before follow-ups from Red.
So given its current position, I can't shoot at its guts at all.
Yeah.
Does it have, yeah, you said nothing really of a face to speak of, but I'm just going to put a couple of shots into whatever is in front of me then.
Whatever top bit.
Yeah.
And you can see that once again, they ping off when you hit it straight on. The bullets, in one case, whizzing past you again on the way back. Like, you know, the shards of the bullet, not the full bullet. But additionally, where you hit at a slight angle, it digs in a little bit. And after starting to unload a bit, Red, follow-ups from you.
Red is going to take a few shots with her revolver into kind of like that bulging area on its back.
Yep, absolutely. The revolver doesn't have fantastic grouping, and so even though her hands are incredibly stable and her eyes are incredibly good, you create a cluster around, like in that area, a bunch of them digging in, one or two of them pinging off. You do not see any immediate results from this, though, given that though you do punch in, it doesn't get in super deep. Immediate follow-ups from Crow after unloading a bunch into its front. It's now pulling itself back over towards him. His back is now to the door that he came in by.
So let's say if I did 3 shots before, I'm going to do 3 more. And as my revolver empties, I'm going to holster it and take my Sharps rifle.
Yep. As you do so, you can see that its hand, as it's been dragging itself along, its hand reaches up and kind of cocks itself into a finger position, and you can immediately feel the temperature around you start to drop.
Oh, definitely shooting that.
Where on the hand do you want to shoot?
Yeah, like aiming for the finger sort of frosty bit.
Yep, absolutely. The Sharps rifle has substantially higher power than your revolver, and because of that, you actually manage to cause the finger to like distort at an odd angle. You feel that the temperature is still cold, but it doesn't drop much further, or at least it starts to drop at a slower pace. After shooting this, Red, follow-ups from you.
So you're saying that the shots are kind of making indentations. Would it be indentations enough that I could maybe bounce a shot off of it? Like off of the indentations and like at an angle into its skin? Like a little deeper.
Even better than the indentations you're making. Like I said, its back looks like its shoulder blades and its lats are overdeveloped, and those create a bit of like a bulging landscape on its back. You could possibly reflect over the slope of one of those.
All right. Yeah, I'll try to trick shot. Like, so you're saying that like the shoulder blades and like more of like the mid back, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so yeah, trick shotting off of the shoulder blade on the right, trying to bounce it into its mid back.
And what's your flourish?
The flourish is kind of like, so the way that this pistol reloads, it spins a new round into the chamber.
Yep.
Right. So like very kind of like grandiosely like out from the side, spinning it around, pointing it at the shoulder blade and taking the shot.
As you do so, you see that your bullet reflects off and now at a very tight angle lodges in deep. There's a moment and then the bullet pops back out with a stream of pressure as a long thin streak of that blue Gatorade looking liquid comes shooting out of it.
Oh, well, that's something. Maybe shoot for that, if you can.
Crow, follow-ups from you, having shot your Sharps rifle once.
So can I get a decent shot at the shoulders?
Its body is
facing
slightly
me?
hunched up as it is pulling itself towards you and has its hand up, and because of that, the back is currently out of sight of you.
Is there anything that I could hop up on to get better vantage point?
Yep, again, counters, kitchen tables.
Yeah, so yeah, grabbing another counter or something, yeah, hopping up on that and trying to like get that angle down
As
at
you go
its
to
back.
hop up, you awkwardly lurch forward a little bit. Your feet are frozen to the ground.
Well, shit.
Good old cowboy style. Oh, shit.
Before we go further with that, let's jump back up to Pike. The two of you steal down the hallway more quietly than usual, and towards the end, Loxpens sticks out his finger in front of your face and turns it to the side, pointing towards a pair of sealed doors. One of them is similar to the trophy room. It doesn't have a seam or anything down it. Instead, like a couple of ornate patterns carved into it and a circular matrix at the center. And the other is a more conventional and small door, similar to the one that you went through to get to the kitchen down below.
Which one's up?
He says at full volume in your ear, both. Elevator and stairs. You hear the thumping behind you pause and then start to get intensified.
You idiot. I'm going to try to open the stairs door.
Yep. You can push it open very easily, and you find that the stairs here are substantially grander than the ones down to the kitchen. The door to it as well, as you push it, kind of melts away in a similar way to the trophy room door. The swing part is entirely for show, leading to a pleasant, slightly spiraling staircase that loops up with a beautiful, full floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the glorious beach outside.
Gotta say, you at least have a very nice home. I continue climbing the stairs.
As you do so, he says at full volume, obviously, I paid an inordinate sum of money for it.
I keep climbing the stairs.
As you get to the top, the thumping enters the foyer down below where you exited. Loxpens starts to go from a quick trot up the stairs to a sprint as he bolts for the door at the top of the stairs ahead of you.
And I will be right on his heels. I can't let him get away from me.
Yep.
No matter how much I want to turn and shoot this thing.
And as he opens the door, this time you can see that he puts his face up to it and it melts away rather than just having like the swing open. And he scoots through. The door starts to close behind him, but you can step through it before it does so. You hear him say, right, next staircase up is down this hallway, full volume as per usual, second left.
All right, this time you lead the way.
He says, no, of course I'm not going to lead the way, and he gets behind you again.
All right, I will. We're not being stealthy. I'm going to go off at a run now.
Yeah. He runs behind you, tripping slightly to try to catch up with your sudden change in pace. And as the two of you sprint down the hallway, first one left passes, then a second. It's beautiful. It's kind of hotel-ish, but again, with that curving style that makes it impossible to see exactly where you're going. You almost crash into someone who steps around the corner, not into your face, but as though they had also been moving out from the left that you were about to take at speed. Immediate actions, you can't register exactly who it is. You can't exactly register if they're armed or anything. Immediate actions as you're about to crash into them.
Do I get at least their general size?
Yes, smaller than you.
Okay, then I'm not threatened by it. I just sort of get back to my feet and interpose myself between them and Loxpen.
Yeah, the crash does not quite happen. So is this like a skid to the halt sort of thing, or is this like a barrel?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And as you do so, you hear a scream. And she immediately leaps backwards and says, don't hurt me, please.
I'm not going to hurt you. We're here to get him up.
And after a moment, Loxpens is not at all fazed by this. He says, get out of the way, as he goes to shove her out of the way. And she says, please help, we're under attack. He says, shut up, and he shoves her out of the way and rushes past her.
I'm going to grab Loxpens by the back of the neck.
And he goes, and is like kind of halted mid-rush. The woman, now that you see her a little better, she's not doing fantastic just from the look on her face. She is just from looking at her, she has the Instagram influencer build. But no makeup, her face is wan, her hair is completely like akimbo, and she's wearing very casual clothes. Although, like, bed clothes, so to speak. You can see that her like heavily bagged eyes are absolutely desperate as she stares at your face. You can see that she looks from you to Loxpens, back to you, and she says to Loxpens, Well, don't just stand there. Make him take him with me. Make him take him with you. I need to get out. And he says, no, obviously not. You figure it out yourself. We gotta get out of here. This is my protection.
I'll turn to her. Is there anyone else in here that needs to escape?
She says, I don't know. Probably the servants down below.
Keep up. And I'm going to keep running now with two rich assholes behind me.
You hear that she immediately starts to give these like faint, like soft whinges as she runs after, trying desperately to keep up despite her slippers. Lockspens is keeping pace with you far better and says to you firmly, don't worry about her. She'll figure it out. I'm sure she'll figure it out.
Yes, I'm sure she will. And I don't increase my pace at all.
Indeed. And as you do so, the two of you are approaching another spiraling staircase leading up. In the meantime, you have passed by a couple of the ceiling here is pretty high at places. And because of that, you pass by a number of rooms opening up onto glorious spas, indoor pools, theaters that seem to be specifically designed to allow for a full sensory experience. Everything you might expect in a high magitech wealthy person's villa. But soon you're approaching another spiral staircase with another view of a different side of the beach.
Glancing back, is the Overidex within eyesight or earshot?
Since all the hallways here curve, no. But earshot, yes. You hear it thumping along behind the group of you, just out of sight. The woman who you crashed into is probably 10 paces behind you, struggling to keep up, clearly not used to running at this speed.
Well, I'm not strong enough to carry her, so I'm just going to keep going slowly.
And slowly? Slowing down?
No, at my normal pace, making sure that she can keep up, no more than 10 paces behind.
It's at this point that Lockspens cuts out in front of you and enters into the foyer with the staircase. There isn't a door to this one. You can see most of it very clearly, and the whole thing is completely open concept. He begins to sprint up the staircase as fast as he possibly can. As he is going, however, this is the first moment at which you see the Overidex starting to round the corner into sight. Now that you're no longer on a curve, you're on a straightaway leading to the stairs. Immediate actions upon seeing it.
I make eye contact and try to get... I'm not planning to engage right now. I just want to get a feel for whether or not this thing's weaponized.
You do not see any weapons on it. However, you do see ice forming around its hand and thrumming in the air around it.
Good. I'm going to grab the woman's hand and run up the stairs.
As she does so, she gives a yelp and staggers along behind you. You're practically dragging her up. But as you are doing so, you start to feel the cold hit the air in this staircase as you are climbing up. Lockspens is well ahead of you at the top, and the Overidex stops almost at the bottom of the staircase before bringing up both of its hands and flexing its fingers rigidly.
I spin around in this moment, and I'm going to do a trick shot.
Yep.
Aiming for his fingers, and I forgot to mention this beforehand, but Pike wears steel-toed boots.
Yep.
But the steel is like flat surfaces angled down towards the ground on the outside of the toe.
Yep.
And without drawing the revolver from its holster, he's going to fire at his toe and deflect it towards the thing's hands.
That's so sick! I love it.
That's fucking awesome.
That's amazing. And as the shot pings off of your boot and strikes into its hand, you can see the hand hits, like the hand is intact, but the strike hits home clear, and immediately you can see that some of the ice that was starting to form from its hands falters, though it does not entirely dissipate. You hear a cry upstairs from Lockspens as he starts to run straight back down the way he came at equal speed as he is wont to do. Additionally, you hear a faint whimper from the woman. Please, I'm stuck.
I'm gonna take my steel-toed boots and try to smash the ice that I assume is around her foot right now.
It's around her hand on the railing.
I'm going to try to probably break the railing
Oh.
since it's cold and broken.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you're gonna try and break her
Break
hand.
her hand. That's what I was thinking too. What are we talking here? Are we talking like a mule kick to the railing, or do you have something else in mind?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. You can feel that the railing does actually crack, and there's like a sudden spurt as a blue liquid starts to dribble out from the crack that you formed in it. It does not fully break. Follow-ups?
I wasn't there, so I can't ask if this is the same blue liquid that was in the
Indeed.
Overidices. Soon to be Overa deceased.
Great name for this mission, by the way.
I'm going to manifest again and try to melt it the same way I melted the door to get out of the servant's staircase.
Yep, absolutely. And this time, as you start to reach out your hand towards it, you hear the Overidex move and begin to smoothly run up the staircase. It's not quite a Naruto run, but it keeps its body very low, and its multi-segmented legs allow it to run up the stairs very fast without changing its center of gravity at all.
Yikes.
As you are bringing your hand up to, and you can feel that the heat from your hand is starting to battle the cold of the banister, the woman is screaming in your ears. Loxpens is yelling, "Leave her! Leave her! She's dead weight! She's baggage! Protect me!"
Get the door at the top of the stairs!
And as you do so, he screams at the top of his lungs, "It's frozen!"
At this point, I figure that I need to leave her. The railing is cracked. Hopefully she might be able to free herself, but I'm going to interpose myself between the between her and the Overidex, and I'm going to enter a shootout. And I'm going to take my shotgun off of my back, and immediately upon just like touching it, my clothes begin to singe.
Yeah.
And my eyes change from these, normal hazel, and after I blink and open them again, they are rocks. They are simple gray rocks, cracked with red hot magma boiling from underneath them. And as you can see a single tear of that magma burning my face as it goes down my cheek. And I take out the shotgun and start unloading.
Fuck, Pike is cool.
That's serious.
Crazy.
Where are you, broadly speaking, aiming on it?
It's bent over slightly, right?
Yep.
Power cells on its back.
As you start to unload shot after shot, we're going to jump back downstairs to Crow and Red. Now, Crow, you were stuck. Oh shit. What do you want to do?
Looking down at my feet, are they just like stuck to the floor, like when you have wet sort of boots and then like walk into somewhere warm and it like freezes immediately, you know what I mean? Like that kind of frozen to the floor, or like ice cubes around my feet frozen
Like
to the
ice
floor?
crystals jagging up from the floor, making impromptu manacles that are growing larger before your very eyes.
Okay, I'm gonna use the butt of my rifle to just start smashing the crystals and try and free my foot.
Yeah. Follow-ups from Red. As Crow is doing so, the Overidex has pulled itself closer to him and is like 2 pulls away from being in hand range.
There's no way that shootout's off cooldown at this point. All right, well, knowing where the kind of point of impact for whatever this liquid reserve is, Red is going to pull out her coach gun and
Yep.
try to shoot, like, generally in that compromised area of the back where the liquid is spurting out.
Yep. And after one shot, and then another shot, you've opened it enough that now liquid is spilling out in greater substance. You notice that the liquid doesn't seem to be cold. Where it hits the ground and hits the ice, it seems to sizzle and steam a little bit, as though the liquid were slightly warm, contrasting the frost on the ground. However, Crow, you managed to free one foot. It's pulled itself close enough to reach you, but as it does so, you see its movement starting to slow.
So, yeah, raise my rifle up, ready to take the shot, but won't waste a bullet if I don't have to.
Its hand comes closer and closer to your thigh, and its fingers start to articulate as it tries to reach around and grab you by the leg.
Did I move yet, or did I only maybe get 1 foot free?
You only got 1 foot free.
I'm gonna just take the step back with the 1 foot that I can, and rifle out, ready to blast the hand if I need to.
And it comes to a stop.
Well, all right.
More liquid is now oozing out in great puddles on the ground around it. Bright blue like blue Gatorade. You smash the other foot free.
We better get on out of here. We've wasted a lot of time with this thing.
Yes, I would agree. Red's gonna kind of like try and get ahead of Crow,
Yeah.
and as she's passing him, say, "I'm not a werewolf." Just keep running up.
Now, are you going back the way you came out of the kitchen, or are you trying to go through the servants' quarters, the direction you were pointed towards?
Well, the scudder, whatever, has that arrived yet?
I'm about to get to that. So, what direction are you
Yeah,
going
I was gonna
start
say.
to make your way out to?
I think probably going up the stairs, just because that's the direction that Lockspins went.
Yeah. And in that case, as Red mutters this and passes by Crow into that stairwell, this is when the scudder scurries up to you. You recognize it immediately, and you see that Lockspens's voice emerges from it. Though he whispered, the volume has been amped up to his normal speaking voice.
Oh.
And he says,
He's scratchy as shit.
he's like, obviously, the place that you are at is currently compromised. We are making our way back up through the originally suggested route. This would be a right at the top of the staircase through which we descended to go down towards the kitchens. If you wish to be of use, you may join us. If not, you shall not be paid.
Okay. It's kind of mean, I'd say. Kept this thing from going in, but whatever. We should go. And Red's going to try to like pick up the scudder.
Yep.
And you said it has like kind of like a not necessarily articulating, but like it's on like a gyroscope, like that's its head.
Yep.
She's gonna kind of like pet its head, kind of with the intention to try and have it do what it did to Lockspins and like kind of graft
You
itself.
see that
to
it
her arm.
smoothly grabs around your arm and locks into place. Your arm feels like a couple pounds heavier, but other than that, you don't even register it. You have your full range of motion.
Excellent. Let's move.
As Red starts to head up the staircase, Crow.
I'm gonna look towards that servant's quarters, but if I'm not seeing anything, I guess this is it then. I'm gonna reload my revolver as I'm going upstairs.
Do either of you have pluses to vigor?
No,
I have one.
I don't.
Absolutely. In that case, by the time the two of you reach the top of the stairs where you first entered this place, Crow will have caught well up to Red, and the two of you, assuming you're following the instructions you were given, take the right. This would bring you back into the circular, or not the circular, but the curving hallway that you first entered into from the trophy room, continuing the direction you went after exiting the trophy room, and from there along until you see a very obviously recently gone through entryway. The entryway in this case is one of those melty away ones, but it has been frozen in place such that it cannot reform, and beyond it is a grand staircase leading up, with its window displaying a beautiful view of the beach.
Well, I say we follow the path of least resistance. Let's move.
And so too, making your way up, Crow, are you trying to keep pace with Red or get out ahead of her? Because you can. And additionally, are the two of you sprinting or just running?
I think we're like actively trying to get to where Lockspins is,
Yeah.
because like obviously, especially with the door here being frozen, it's like okay, assuming they went this way, there's one of these things after them right now.
Yeah.
So like we need to kind of book it.
Does that mean sprinting?
Yeah.
Yes, for in my case, yes.
Awesome. Crow, are you trying to keep pace with Red or get out ahead?
I think seeing that I can outpace Red, I think it will.
I had a feeling, yes. And in that case, you can follow the trail of frost on the ground to see where an Overidex has been. Up this spiraling staircase, through into a grand hallway lined with doors, taking a sharp left 2 doors down or not 2 doors down, but 2 lefts down, following again still the trail of frost, and up ahead you hear the sound of gunfire. Red would also pick it up too, even though a little ways behind Crow. At this point, Red would definitely be starting to feel it more than Crow, and would be at the very least panting heavily.
Mm-hmm.
As the 2 of you are roaring along, let's jump back over to Pike. As the shootout activates, you are muted. Oh, Dennis, you're muted at the moment.
Yes, yeah, no, we're good.
There we go.
There you are.
Anyways, pardon.
So I noticed one thing in shootout. A fresh bullet is conjured into place whenever you cock a firearm. So every single, like, I fire 2 shots, and to reload, I don't know what it's called, but I cock the weapon so that the double barrel, bends away from the firing chamber.
Yep.
And I put both of my fingers into the chamber, and they turn into lava themselves.
Oh.
And when I pull them out, they stay there and they cool into bullets. And
That is so
That's super
stylish.
fucking rad. What in the world is this guy? This is
Now,
crazy.
I should note, as you fire after that first reload, your shots hit hard. You see that unlike the first 2, which were mundane, these next 2 shots, where they hit, the ice that is forming in midair around the Overidex shatters into nothingness and is melted away. They hit with far greater heat, and the Overidex is peppered by the first 2, bam, bam, and then a moment later the second 2, bam, bam. But as it does so, rather than conjuring ice as it has been, after it has that ice melted by that shot, it just tries to barrel into you instead, rushing up the stairs in your direction. You have time for another 2 set of shots. You have managed to hit in the fuel tank area, but now that it's barreling towards you, you don't have a great sense of how bad the hits were for it. What do you want to do?
I want to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to trust my resilience to be able to take this thing fully on my gut.
And after another 2 shots, it slams into your chest and hurls you up the staircase in a bull rush. This would easily be enough to splinter human bone. But for Pike, it flings him up maybe 6 or 7 stairs. He crashes against against the stair banister, but he doesn't even get knocked unconscious by this. Dazed, no doubt, but as your senses are coming to, things that you note. First of all, Lockspence has left you for dead and is sprinting up the staircase. Second of all, the woman is screaming and looks on the verge of fainting with her hand just kind of like she's slumped against her arm, which is still stuck to the banister, and the Overidex has moved, clearly thinking that you've been dealt with. It has turned away from you and is looking towards her, reaching out its arm.
Oh, it's turned away from you, you said?
Yes.
Well, I unload into its back with a clearer shot this time.
2 more shots go streaking into its back, and you see the blue liquid start to stream. It immediately whips back around. As it does so, you can see that ice crystals had started to form on the ground around the woman, who is now sobbing weakly as she loses consciousness. It, turning to face you after those first 2 shots with blue liquid soaking the stairs around it, starts to rush up the stairs towards you again, and you're currently low on the ground. What do you want to do?
I think I will slowly rise, cock the gun one last time. Leave me alone.
And you can see that these 2 hit, and the smoldering remnants of the lava that formed the bullets burn against its body as they do so. You can see that this time the Overidex's hand slams down into your chest and tries to push you down into the staircase with it on top of you. What do you want to do as its hand strikes you in the chest?
I in this form, Pike is single-minded and powerful. He is going to continue just unloading shot after shot after shot, taking all the damage he can muster.
Without even flinching, he continues to shoot point blank into its gut. As he does so, it draws back its fist and plunges a punch down clean into his face. This, I don't know how many punches Pike has taken in his life. This is quite probably the worst. It is unbelievable. It's like a car hitting him. And for the first time since he started, probably in quite a while, Pike feels himself for a moment lose consciousness. And as he does so, he feels a massive weight. You do not know what is going on around you, but you still have enough sense to do stuff. What do you want to do?
I think when Pike takes that punch, his head actually does just explode into a pile. Just spilled a ton of water.
Shit, I'm so sorry. Here, do you want to do an emergency cleanup? I can deal
good.
with the other two.
Yeah, sure.
No problem.
I'll be right back.
I want to hear more about the head exploding when you do. Now, pardon. Crow and Red. You are sprinting along this hallway, and Crow finally sees a stairwell coming into view. The stairwell, as you go along the straightaway, is laced with ice, and not too long after, as he starts to sprint deeper into, more properly into the room, he sees the scene playing out before him. He does not see Lockspens. He doesn't even see Pike, but he does see an Overidex about 2/3 of the way up the stairs, hunched over and unmoving, and he also sees a woman in her pajamas, effectively, with her hand iced to the railing, seemingly slumped and unconscious. What would Crow like to do?
Where's the Overdex in relation to the woman?
So she is like 2/5 of the way up the staircase. It's like 2/3, so it's a little ways past her.
Okay. And it has its back to me.
Yes, it does.
Okay. But I don't see that it's moving.
It is unmoving. You also see, after a moment of recognition, that it is absolutely pouring blue.
Well, no immediate threat, I don't think. So yeah, I'm gonna start to run up the stairs, see the woman, acknowledge that she exists, but take a look at our threat first.
As you are rushing up the stairs, you hear, "Good! You decided to show up!" At the top of the staircase, you see Lockspens. He currently has a small chair, like ornate chair in his hands, and is trying to use it to bash open an iced shut door.
Yeah, we're here. Cavalry's here, all right. Where's Pike?
Dead, probably.
Probably?
He says, "Help me get this thing open!" as he slams the chair against the door.
Yeah. Do I just not see him at all? He's just
he is
crushed
covered by the
Overidex.
Overidex.
Well, yeah, then walking past it, but yeah, keeping an eye on it mainly to see if it moves, like ready to take a shot at it.
Yep.
And still nothing?
It is completely unmoving, but you do see smoldering on the ground around it.
Well, I don't know nothing about that. I will continue up the stairs.
Red, you come after Crow into the room. You're panting heavily, probably top of yellow for stamina. You also see what he is seeing, and a little bit quicker given your higher sensory. Immediate actions you'd like to take. Crow is by this point over halfway up the stairs.
So the Overidex is like fully just not moving?
Yes.
Like it's just kind of there? Alright, Red is going to like cautiously but quite intentionally go up to the woman. You said before that the ice crystals were kind of forming at her feet?
No, in her case, it's at her hand, where her hand touches the railing.
Right, okay. Red is going to like touch some of the like what seems to be antifreeze almost, because like it was like kind of dispelling away the ice.
Yeah.
When at its touch, is it like does it burn or is it just like fluid?
It stings and is warm.
All right, Red can deal with that. Red's going to scoop some into her hand and pour it onto the woman's hand on the railing.
A great plume of steam comes up, and she wakes up. Ow! 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 Ow!
Sorry,
she
are you all right?
And her eyes open wide, and she almost looks like she's
Don't
gonna
worry,
faint
I'm not a.
again.
Please don't scream. I'm not a werewolf. I've been through this so many times today. All right, I'm here to help.
She blinks wildly,
Are
and she
you
says,
okay?
"But I don't have my implants in. Why do you look like that?"
This is just how I look normally.
Really? Who's your
Yes,
surgeon?
but that's not the. It's not surgery. I was born like this. There's a lot of things that would need to be explained, but there's no time for that. I'm here to help you. Are you okay?
No.
Does Red have enough strength? She doesn't have any pluses to might. Does she have enough strength in her to pick this woman up?
Do you want to try?
Yes.
Yeah. You have put your gun away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And getting kind of, are you trying to get like under a shoulder or something?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And she weakly takes a stand on the stairs. You can pick her up enough that she can stand up. She says, I thought I was dead.
Not yet, you're not. And very much taking after her father, she's going to wrap her tail around the woman,
Yeah.
just as like a gesture of comfort, and just like kind of like usher her up the stairs. Would she see Pike as she's like walking up?
Now, I'd love to be able to give you more info on that, but unfortunately I need to resolve Pike's action first, so let's do that. Now, let's talk about heads exploding.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, great spot to leave off on. So while Pike's lying there with no head, just cooling lava around where it used to be. Have the other two made it into the staircase?
Yes.
Okay. Is the Overidex still up?
The Overidex is on top of you, unmoving.
Okay. I think Pike slowly, very slowly, lava starts boiling out of his neck and reforms his head.
This is a good
no
point
hat
to...
this time.
Yes, this is a good point to point out what Red would see. You would see that the ornate carpet of the floor starts to catch fire around the Overidex as lava starts to seep out from it.
Does this one have fire powers as well? That's going to be unfortunate if it wakes up again.
And Crow, you would also hear the smoldering noise from behind you at this point.
Just look back. What in the hell's that?
And this is when Crow would see Pike's head reforming, or from his perspective, like a ball of lava underneath the Overidex that cools and becomes hair.
What in the...
At this point, I think Pike would at least groan.
You hear grinding rock as the head moves. Oh. Ow. And his eyes are back to normal, and he's no longer like smoldering, only the cooling rock around him is.
Are you all right?
Crow calls downstairs.
Yeah.
Relatively.
I was going to say, leave, I tell you what. Is that normal for you?
I avoid it when I can.
Right, well, can you stand?
Not right now. Here.
Well,
help
when
me
you
move
can,
this
maybe.
thing.
Oh, yes, of course.
Uh,
She's going to ask the woman, can you stand on your own?
Mm-hmm. She takes the railing nearby
Just for
her,
a
and then
moment.
her hand jumps away, scared of getting frozen to it again.
Oh, don't worry. This thing has stopped. You're perfectly fine. Just hold on for a second. I have to get this off of him.
between Red and Pike, making a pretty substantial exertion, you manage to shift it just enough that it actually tumbles down the stairs. Smashes through a banister and hits the floor in a heap. Red can see an enormous, brutal smolder mark around Pike on the carpet. The fires have gone out, but there is still the fossilized remnants of lava seeping from him. No longer a flame, though.
Some impressive work you did there. But I suppose my questions about your origin are the least of our concerns. Let's move.
You lead this time, if you don't mind.
Gladly. Would you mind carrying her?
Yeah, here. And I'll help her up and put her arm around my neck.
And as you do so, she says, "Thank you." She says, "You weren't going to leave me for dead, were you?"
No.
Crow, up at the top of the staircase. You are the closest to Lockspence, who has broken his chair and has acquired a vase, which breaks the first time he tries to use it.
Looking back at where Pike was, is there anything at all still smoldering?
There's some smoke.
Could I find anything flammable and try to get some kind of makeshift torch going? Like, you smash the chair, there's probably a leg somewhere that I might be able to catch on fire.
Wood does take a good amount of coaxing to catch fire, and there's no fuel.
Well, wrap some upholstery around it, maybe.
That maybe, yeah. Grabbing some upholstery, hurrying down and trying to torch it up. Yeah, you can definitely get upholstery on a chair leg going. I'm okay with that.
All right, and then start using that around the door, seeing if I can melt some of the frost.
You can see that the frost does respond to the heat and does start to ooze away softly. Lockspence looks to you and says, "Are you a caveman? We have more sophisticated means of fire, you know."
Yeah, well, it's working, obviously.
And he says, "But there are more efficient ways to do it, obviously. Where's my damn scudder?"
Well, you didn't think of them, did you?
He says, "Of course I thought of them. I just didn't do them." Now,
would Red have reached the kind of landing at this point?
Yes, he would have. And also, they're both quite loud.
Does the door look like it's openable at this point?
No.
No, not at all. Okay, is there any residual kind of antifreeze on Red's hand from when she
just a little
melted
bit, and it still stings.
Yeah. Red's going to kind of plant her hand on the door, where the midsection, and kind of gesture for Crow to hit the hinges on it, and just kind of pull down on it to try and unfreeze whatever the closing mechanism
this
would
feels
be.
awful. It's like tongue on a cold post sort of deal, but on your hand, and you can feel skin rub off immediately. Certainly unpleasant, but it starts to melt a little bit of the core of the door. Pike brings up the rear with the woman draped over his shoulder. Lockspence looks over his shoulder irritably and says, "Oh, you survived. That's a shame."
What's your deal? What? Why are you the way that you are? Red's still doing the thing, but just kind of turns to ask Lockspence.
Lockspence ignores your question and points to the scudder on your arm and says, "Oh, you did something useful. Give me that."
Okay, here you go.
And immediately...
Pike, real quick, is going to lean over to Red and ask, "What happens to us through Enclave rules if we get him to his suit and then kill him?"
I'm not sure. I think as long as the badges ping, the contract is done.
All right. Good.
And as you are saying this, the woman draped over Pike's shoulder says, "Is that really how you're going to greet me? You know that our lives are both in danger. Or are you too focused on yourself, as usual, you psycho?" He completely ignores her and is busy scanning his eyes into the scudder, which he then tasks off and it zooms downstairs. And he says, "Did I say you could talk? No, I didn't think so. Shut up." He says, professionals are at work here. He gestures around.
I don't think you get to dictate that. Man who ran away from literally every problem he's had so far today.
He says, no, I haven't. He gestures and says,
You
I called you
quite actually have.
I
That's
called...
a form of running from your problems.
No, it's called subcontracting. Look it up.
Yes, and I think that many people would agree. Subcontracting is keeping yourself away from the problems that you don't feel like solving.
He says, well, I don't need to. I got money.
Hey Crow, do you think you could carry him?
I had to. Can we knock him out first?
Red is going to look at Pike knowingly and say, hold on.
You see that Lockspence has kind of followed the conversation, but gets distracted by the fact that the door is now openable, which he immediately begins to do.
Right. Red is going to hop behind him, plant her hand on his back, and truly just reap him through the door.
And with a crunching noise, you smash through the remaining bit of ice in the process. Immediately, you are hit by great brilliant sun dappled with shade. The roof of the villa is a jungled garden. You can see that around you not only are there elegant statues, a lot of which look to be bits of the floating city overhead that have been repurposed and turned into art, but there are also gentle fountains, walkways, and a couple of small levitating platforms that allow people to go up and get a better look. Speaking of which, overhead you can see the floating city. It's ominous, like the moon in Majora's Mask, just kind of there, looming over the city. And you also get a good view of your surroundings for the first time, although a lot of it is obstructed by foliage. Not only do you see the ocean off in the distance, you see the city rising around you, sleek and elegant, but you also see two floating Overidices slowly rotating around the roof, clearly scanning. Immediate actions from Red, who is the first to see all this.
Well, looks like we need to keep low. There's two suits. Looks like they're scanning.
Lockspence says, ow, from his position on the ground.
In all fairness, you deserved that. Where's your suit?
He says, straight ahead, through and across. Can't miss it.
Be quiet.
No, of course I'm going to keep quiet. They need to hear me too. He points over your shoulder to the other two. Obviously.
Okay. Cool. But there are two suits out there that are scanning for us. If they can hear you, they'll find us. And I'd rather not deal with another one.
As you do so, you see one of them has started to move towards your position.
Let's move fast as we can.
Crow and Pike, immediate follow-ups as the door is pushed open and you're greeted by sun and the smell of the ocean.
So hearing that exchange, I think I'm going to drop down low, probably unsling my rifle, and say like, well, probably hold one off, at least long enough for him to get to the suit.
Pike, any actions or comments from you?
Sounds like a good idea. Hang on, dear.
As you do so, she drapes her shoulders over you, and you hear her kind of whisper almost to herself, warm, nice and warm. But as she does so, she kind of shakes herself and says, wait, my suit's there too. Can you get me to my suit, please?
Oh, actually, that's amazing. Yes, we can.
Thank you. She says, mine's dark blue. It's a Zafri Cross model. You won't be, well, maybe you will be able to miss it because you don't look you're from around here.
Dark blue. We can find dark blue.
Thank you for being warm. Now,
all right.
Her draped over your shoulder, is Pike going to move out onto the roof?
Not yet. I'll look over at Crow. Once you start shooting, I'm going to start running.
Awesome, I heard that. Pardon. The beginning, it sounded garbled to me. Crow, responses?
I'll say, yeah, I'll hold it for a second, but shooting will start soon enough. As soon as you see it stop, get moving.
And Red, actions from you as Crow says this.
Red is immediately like kind of like pushing Lockspins along towards where you gestured the suit to be.
Yep.
Just like trying to keep low.
As you are doing so, you can see through the foliage that the suit that started to come in towards you is getting close. It's also when it's using its thrusters or whatever keeps it airborne, it doesn't have its hands deployed or anything. The thrusters seem to be emitting from its feet. However, as it starts to swoop down, it actually drops the thrusters and grabs onto a nearby tree, which sways under its weight as it swings under the tree and onto the ground not far from you. It's now obstructed by the foliage.
So I can't see the suit.
Yeah.
Okay, but I saw where it landed, right?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
It is not in your way, but it is like 90 degrees from you.
Mm-hmm. Man, these things are quite particularly fast. She's gonna kind of call back. Crow, can you handle this one?
I got it.
Now, Crow, from
Alright.
your position at the doorway, you saw it swing down onto the ground. That was the first you had seen of it because it was coming in from an angle obstructed by the doorway. But at this point, it is undercover in the foliage. Despite its size and its noise, it, for the moment at least, doesn't seem to be moving from its new position. Red, actions from you, then follows from Crow, then Pike.
Red is going to draw her weapon, but not point it at the suit yet. She's gonna kind of have it ready so she doesn't have to take the time in case things get hairy.
Yeah.
And she's gonna just like keep starting to move Lockspins along.
Yep, the two of you are now going across what seems to be a hard light bridge overlooking a water feature. As you do so, Crow, actions from you. Red is a ways away from the door at this point, moving like quickly, but as quickly as she can while staying low and quiet alongside Lockspins.
Right. So from a crouch and like, you know, kind of kneeling, I want to scope to where I can see the Overadex.
Yeah, it's obstructed by foliage, but under scope with your high sensory, you can pick out flashes of its chassis color through the foliage and leaves.
And do we have any sense of where the other one was? You said there were two.
There were two. You didn't see the other one.
Okay. Well, and nobody mentioned it, so I only saw one. All right. I'm just gonna.
Red did
Prepare a
specifically say, "Can you handle this one?"
Yes, that is a good point. So I'm fine with Crow making the inference that there's a second.
Okay. But I'll stay focused on the one that I saw, just like trying to see if I can get a clean shot at anything.
Absolutely. Because you can pick out flecks of color, you know where it is, but it's hard to see where on it you are looking. You just have a general idea of where it is. But you also do see it start to move through the undergrowth. Unlike before, you cannot hear it when it is moving, though admittedly it is moving very slowly compared to how quick you know they are capable of moving.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll just keep my rifle trained on its general area for the moment.
Absolutely. Pike, actions from you. Crow has taken up position right at the doorway. Red is out.
I got some new information that you might think is interesting, but not helpful right this minute. Our enemy is an 11-year-old.
Kid?
Yeah.
Wow. I ain't killing no kid.
Nope, me neither. But machines, different story. Let me know when I can start running.
Are you going to stay in the doorway next to Crow, or are you going to move out alongside Red, who's taking point well up ahead from the doorway?
I'm going to try to stealthily move further out.
Yeah. And as you start to steal your way out, your eyes would also be brought up. So if the first suit landed kind of on your left with Red out ahead of you, the other flying suit is more on your right. But in this case, it's not at like 3 o'clock, it's more at like 1 o'clock. So ahead of you and to your right. Still up in the air.
I'll turn to Crow and give him those exact details. There's another one right about there, maybe 100 feet up.
Well, damn. How are we gonna deal with two of them?
And as Crow continues to track, in that moment that he glimpsed away, for a moment of panic, he lost the one that he had been tracking, but he quickly refines it and finds that even though they are moving slowly and quietly, their jointed legs allow them to get very, very low, allowing it to keep a far lower profile than a person could going through like undergrowth without compromising its ability to move at pace. It's just like crunched down its legs very, very small.
I'm gonna wait until it shows itself, so I'm gonna keep kind of just keeping an eye on it.
Red, up ahead where you are most of the way across this little hard light bridge over the water feature when Loxpen's wildly excited points out over your shoulder and says, "There, right there!" And you can see kind of a half egg shape emerging out of the roof not too far away from you. I shouldn't say not too far away. A little more than a big stone's throw away from you. You can see it's perfectly clear, and inside is a glorious, gleaming white Overadex, taller than the ones that you've seen before, and it's the Lamborghini among Lamborghinis.
Mm-hmm. Right, well, let's get you there.
He says, yes, fast maybe?
Well, I was assuming that we would run slowly. Of course we're going fast.
He says, "Oh, well, running slowly would be a very poor decision in my eyes, obviously." And as you start
move.
As you start to run out, Crow, the one that you are tracking, leaps into action. It's going much more quickly through the undergrowth, still keeping a low profile, but no longer trying to be perfectly quiet. The undergrowth does, however, not conduct its footfalls nearly as well as the house that you had just been inside. And because of that, it is not immediately apparent that Red hears it, also given that she is running and has loud Loxpens right next to her. Additionally, Red, from your perspective, you can see the other flying one immediately notices you guys start to run, and instead of diving in towards you or anything, you see it circles around to land itself right on top of the half-egg structure holding his suit.
Well, I think I would like to pop up from my position and call out to the one that's in the undergrowth, like,
Yep.
"Hey there!" I'm going to have my rifle kind of like on my shoulder like this as I enter standoff.
And as you enter standoff, it doesn't turn to you, it doesn't make an acknowledgement of you, but it does freeze. Pike, actions from you as Crow does this.
I'm going to start running.
Yep.
Carrying the woman piggyback style.
As you do so, you feel her arms weakly clasped around your shoulders. You hear saying, "Ow, ow, ow." And as you go forward,
we'll get you to your suit.
She says, "My suit." And she points weakly over your shoulder, not towards the egg structure that his is in, but towards a closer, smaller structure. It looks kind of like, imagine a big fire pit that came out of the ground instead of going into the ground. Somewhat metallic shaped with a big seam down the middle and a scanning matrix similar to ones you've seen being used. "It's there, it's there."
All right, let's go.
And this brings you over the same hard light bridge that Red just crossed. Now, as Crow enters standoff, again, the Overadex has not turned to face him at all. Does he have any follow-ups he'd like to do?
I think I'd call out to it again, like, "Hey, face me!"
No response, but still not moving.
I'm going to start to walk towards it slowly.
Do you want to actually enter the undergrowth or stay on the path?
I'm going to stay on the path for now.
Yeah. And as you are getting closer to it, it continues to be unmoving. Though as you get closer, you can see the ice crystals on its hand, it's literal hands, but not human hands, right? On its hands that it was starting to form in preparation for combat.
Can I see, given its current position, right, can I see its back or its belly?
You can see both. You have a perfect side profile of it.
Interesting. Then, yeah, I think once I am in like a reasonable range where I'm positive I will hit all of my shots, I'm going to enter a shootout.
And how are you going to transfer from the standoff to the shootout?
So as I'm staring like this, I'm then going to sudden movement in my hands, and the rifle will actually disappear from where it is and reappear in, shooting,
Yep.
locked to the shoulder. As I start shooting, I'm aiming for the shoulders.
Yep.
Yeah.
And with one, then two high-power rifle shots slamming into its shoulder, you can see that it immediately turns towards you and starts to lunge up out of the undergrowth, taking its huge strides as it does so, rapidly going through the loamy soil and bashing plant life aside.
Can I aim at its feet at all? Would that slow it down? So, yeah, like it's.
Do you want to try to aim towards its feet?
Claws. Yeah, if I've got some time.
Yeah. Taking a shot at each of its feet, you can see that since the feet are well angled for you, you do lodge bullets in there, and in one foot, it does seem to slightly restrict range of motion, but it doesn't slow it down, and it continues to rush up, breaking through the undergrowth onto the path. Pike, you hear the Overidex explode onto the path a little ways behind you, like bull rushing towards Crow.
Well, I hope you got it, Crow. And I'm just muttering to myself, and I just keep running.
And Crow, actions from you as it emerges from the undergrowth. It's about 10 paces from you at this point.
I think at this point I'm going to drop the rifle and pull my revolver since the range is not appropriate for a rifle anymore. Damn it, now it's barreling straight towards me, I'm imagining, right?
Oh, yes.
So probably going for gut shots. I'm going to just fan fire all 6 shots right at the gut.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shots straight into the gut, but at this point it's almost on top of you. It's body low, ready to deck you.
Uh-oh. I think once I'm out of shots, I'm just going to try and like dive to one side.
And as you go for the dive, it brings out its arm and catches you around the midriff before bringing you up and preparing to slam you into the ground.
Uh-oh. This is going to hurt. I don't think I've got too much at the moment, so
Womp.
I'm going to eat that.
Crow's head whiplashes back into the ground, and lights spring up before his eyes. Remind me, do you have a resilience plus, perchance?
I do.
Thank fuck.
Yeah, your spine would have been broken right there.
That would have been extremely bad. Before we go further with that, though, let's jump back over to Red. You and Loxpens are now running at full tilt, your breath coming ragged in your throat. You are, at this point, again, about closer now to within a comfortable stone's throw of that glistening, transparent shell wherein is kept his suit. But the other Overidex has landed on top of it. On top of the shell.
Yeah, so Red is, like, very quickly going to ask, is there some manner of override, shutdown, self-destruct, anything like that?
Self-destruct? I'm not blowing it up!
Well, we have to get rid of it somehow, and I don't think I have the firepower for it. And you need to get in there.
Well, I'm not blowing up mine. Yeah, I have an override for mine, but when I sell it, I don't retain proprietary control over its internal destruction mechanisms, obviously.
Okay, how would I... Is there a shutdown? Something I can say to it to make it stop?
And he says to you, why would I do that? That's the stupidest. But before he goes further, you hear a tinkling noise, and his mouth is sealed shut by ice.
Oh, no. Red's going to swing around, and I assume the one on the shell is
indeed
casting ice.
And you can see that the one on the shell not only has its hand up, but the other hand is up behind it, and it has a series of jagged icicles rotating above it like a halo.
Okay. So my shootout is probably back by now,
Your
right?
shootout is back.
In a good minute. Okay. So Red is going to activate shootout. Can shootout be used in tandem with trick shot?
Yeah, absolutely. No reason not.
Okay, so
typically you
Red's
only get
going
one trick shot out of it, though.
Yeah. So Red is going to shoot out and try to hit with the pistol because I'm not at close enough range for the coach gun.
Yeah.
Try to hit the gems around in like the halo formation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And as you fire, you see that one after another icicle is shattered. However, as you start to pop them, a gesture is made by this Overidex, and the remaining 8 or 9 icicles go whipping in the air through the air towards you and Lockspens like a series of thrown javelins.
Can I tell with a +3 to sensory? Can I tell where these are targeted specifically on?
Absolutely. Like with your highest sensory, you can triangulate this quite quickly. At least 2 are going to be dead hits on Lockspens, another 2 at least dead hits on you, and the remainder covering almost all of your easy dodge routes.
Okay. This is rough. The only thing I can think of is how fast are these moving? Like do I have an opportunity to like do something, or is it like
you
I can
have
dodge,
opportunities to
that's
do
about
things
it?
because you have the triple skill, enormous hand speed because of that, and also you have the double reflex. So you do have time.
Okay.
These things would be going through the air as fast as a shot arrow.
Okay, so you said that I can kind of like calculate the trajectory of these things,
To some degree,
like
yes.
how
Not
yeah
perfectly, but roughly.
yeah not perfectly, but yeah roughly enough. Man, I don't have any pluses to luck. I doubt that would work. I had a plan where I would use the trick shot to bounce off of each of the shards of ice to like stop at least a handful of them and give myself an opening to like move out of the way.
If
But I
you
don't
want
know
a
that I
moment
have
to
the
try to
luck
think
for that
about
to
how
work.
you would energy work that, I could see it maybe working, but it would require a pretty dramatic piece of energy work.
Okay. Yeah, I'll think about that.
Pike. Behind you, you have no idea what's happening with Crow. Ahead of you, you can see that Red and Lockspens are engaged with the one atop his suit on its shell. But the route to her suit is now clear. You've crossed that hard light bridge, and now there's just a handful of small footpaths leading right up to where she gestured towards.
Can you get there?
And she like lets go of you and staggers on the ground for a moment. She says, "Yes, I can go. Thank you."
Okay, go. Run.
She says, "Thank you for not leaving me behind." And then she calls over her shoulder, "I'm sorry if I did anything wrong." And then she calls over her shoulder again, "I'm not a bad mother, I promise."
Not gonna unpack that right now.
And Pike, as she starts
I-
to like raggedly run away from you, what do you want to do? Red is in front of you, Crow is behind you, both of which are separated by a decent amount of space. Again, a big stone's throw.
Which one is closest?
Ever so slightly red.
Okay. And it looks, ooh, they're both in real trouble right now.
You only heard what was happening to Crow, but yes, shots fired and the thudding footsteps of an Overidex.
Yeah. I know that Lockspen is with Red, so that's where I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
And I would like to I was hoping they wouldn't actually have to see this. All right, bud. It's time again. Sorry to wake you up so soon. And immediately he begins steaming again as he grabs at the revolver at his side and actually, for the first time, unholsters it. And it turns into like this very long-barreled revolver, still with the classic, I don't know gun terms, but there's 6 shots that goes to the side to reload. And as he does that, his eyes turn back into those glowing, broken stones. There's another tear of lava that sears his new face in the exact same spot that it seared it last time. He is going to take he's going to uncock the revolver, take all 5 fingers, and just shove them in. And then when he cocks it back, his fingertips regrow and harden into stone. And he is going to attempt to enter standoff with the Overidex that is attacking Red and Lockspin. And in a very different voice, he says, "Where is your master?"
Red, you have a trick shot to pull off.
Yes, so I've come up with an idea. This is a thing. The item that I'm about to describe to you is a thing that like exists in the canon lore of Garinudo. Zechariah gave one to Monko in the form of a watch. There's an item called a record stone, right? Red got one from Zechariah that is basically just like some affirming words, like "I believe in you," stuff like that. And she, remembering what Crow did in the lower room, flips the stone forward. It's a small, almost coin-like stone. Flips it forward, trains the gun on it, and said, "Help me out here, Dad," and takes the shot to ricochet it off of the coin.
And as she does so, the stone shatters. But so too does 1, 2, 3 icicles. As the others rain around you, there was a 4th that had trained on you and Lockspins. And this 4th slams into Red's thigh, her left. She is knocked onto her tail and is pinned to the ground by this icicle. She immediately feels transfixed by the pain, but the cold numbs it almost as quickly. It's at this moment that she hears the voice of the not immediately recognizable voice echoing over her shoulder. And Pike would see, and so would Red, though through Red's eyes the world would be different for a moment, hazy and crisp in unusual ways, would see that the Overidex that is standing atop the shell hovers up, and you can see that for the first time something opens on it. And you can see that it opens to reveal a person inside it for the first time. A young man with green hair and similar features, a frail body, and unblinking, frowning eyes. He is surrounded by ice, which covers almost every inch of him inside of the Overidex suit. And he stares out over towards Pike before saying, "I'm my own master now."
Then take pride in that and leave.
You see that he frowns again. And he says, "Well, I'm about to be. When he's dead, then there's no one else. No one else to rule me."
You think you ruled by this cowering man?
Well, yeah, obviously. He's got legal power. He has everything.
And you have the means to leave. Leave this villa. Leave your father. And leave this city. Or the laws change.
But you don't get it. You're not from here. You don't understand how hard it is to strike out and to start everything afresh from new. Everything I know is here. All my foundation is here. All my credentials are here. Everything is here. I need to be here. And this wind goes out of his sails, and he shakes his head. He needs to go, as his hatch starts to close again. While Pike has been talking, Lockspins, keeping his mouth shut only because it is frozen shut, has actually been stealing his way over towards the shell. His son hovered out from atop it, and as such, Lockspens was able to actually creep past, not paying any heed to Red pinned to the ground nearby. Before we go further with that, though, back over to Crow. Slammed into the ground. The breath knocked out of you, your gun knocked out of your hand, lights blink before your eyes. You are, for the very moment, completely and utterly dazed. You only have the loosest coarse motor control over your body. What do you want to do?
Mostly bone. One thing I would like to do is maybe pat my pocket and see if Bad Penny has returned.
Yep, she's there. But as you are checking that, you feel a thud as the Overidex's hand goes around your neck. You are pinned to the ground by your neck, and you feel it starting to squeeze.
Is my gun completely out of reach?
You have no idea. You cannot see it. Your head is locked looking up.
Fuck. This isn't good. What can I do here without a gun? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think for a second.
I have a very important question as well. What is your luck stat?
Oh, it's baseline.
That's what I thought. You feel the air starting to cut, and then the Overidex stops moving. Crow does not know it, but Pike has activated standoff. Crow cannot breathe, however. What do you want to do? No way you're moving. It's so strong and so heavy, you absolutely can't loosen it.
There's no seams to work with, nothing. Oh gosh, yeah, I'm just gonna try to breathe through my nose.
You get the tiniest little slits of air. Now, as Pike is talking, Red, actions from you. Impaled to the ground by an icicle, your body's still in shock, but with enough possession of your senses to move. What do you want to do?
Is the suit's mask still in the process of closing?
Yes, it is still in the process of closing.
Okay. Red is going to, fully in this moment, this is no longer a child to her. This is a full person that is assaulting her, and she is going to take a shot at the open mask.
Yep, with what?
Is her gun not in her hand? Did she drop it?
No, is in which gun? She has her revolver out currently.
Oh, yes, with the revolver, because I think it's still out of range of using the coach gun.
Yep. This breaks Pike's standoff. And, however, as the Overidex shuts, it doesn't shut before Red sees a spurt of blood, drip from between the seams where it shuts. You can see that as soon as it shuts, the Overidex wildly starts to shoot off high into the air. Immediate actions from Red and then from Pike.
Red's gonna say to herself, "Did a bad thing, Dad. I hope it was for a good reason."
Pike, immediate actions from you.
Still in standoff. Where's Lockspin?
Pardon. The standoff has been shattered by Red shooting. And
okay.
Because of that, the ability has ended. You can see that as Lockspens' son, Gast, starts to fly up high into the air after Red shot him, Lockspens has opened the shell, which is currently starting to bloom open in front of him. You can see that he is literally trying to climb over the opening to get into it faster to get to his suit.
I turn back towards Crow.
And turning back, you see him pinned in place by the Overidex, scrabbling at its arm.
And without taking any steps, still rock solid right where I am, looking up at the suit in the sky, looking towards Lockspin, glancing at Red, and then
Zach?
take a shot.
Zach!
Hold on.
I need your help.
The other Overidex.
Yep. And where are you shooting on it? This is with your revolver, yes?
Yes. I think the most obvious spot is going to be the power cells on the back.
Yep. Firing out one shot, you see it hit, and you see a small spurt of blue. And as you do so, the Overidex jerks up and pulls its hand away from Crow. Crow, you gasp, but you have lost you're so oxygen deprived at this moment that your vision has completely blanked over, and you can only gasp in place. Pike, the Overidex has turned towards you and is starting to barrel towards you in a now familiar manner, rushing over the hard light bridge.
He lets out this laugh that is not his. Describe to me what this bridge is again.
It is hard light, as in it's somewhat transparent, and additionally it's like of a thin, fine color. It's so thin that you could pinch it between your fingers and it would be like paper, and yet it seems to bear your weight.
Does it have an obvious power source?
Yes.
I want to shoot the power source for the bridge.
You see it hit the power source, a little stream of blue whips out, and the bridge immediately sputters and vanishes. The Overidex goes tumbling down into the water feature below and puts up a huge splash. At the same time, you hear a whirring noise as Lockspens starts to take to the air. You hear his voice echoing out of a speaker. Yes, 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 I'm alive, yes! But at the same time, too, you hear a similar noise as a dark blue suit takes to the sky not far away. Immediate actions from Pike and Red as this happens.
Are the Enclave badges pinging?
Immediate reactions before something like that might take place. This is like in response to Luxman's taking to the sky, if you have anything.
Not really. No, she's in pain, and her final act was basically apologizing to the wind.
Absolutely. I should also note, by the way, that she can feel herself bleeding out and getting weaker.
Yeah.
Pike, final actions from you.
Looking down at the splash, fully expecting something to re-emerge from that water feature beneath the bridge, and I am laser focused in on this right now.
You see the waters start to bulge, and the Overidex starts to launch out, and as it does so, you and your companions feel your Enclave badges pinging on your chests.
Red is going to hit it as soon as she feels it ping.
Crow.
Yeah, Crow's gonna trying to look around, get his bearings, feel the ping, like, well, I guess we did it then.
And Pike, as the Overidex is launching up towards you from out of the water, what do you want to do? You feel your Enclave badge ping.
Still with the cooling lava eyes, crying from the pain of the searing heat. The Overidex is still flying straight towards me.
Yep.
And I'm just taking shot after shot, and this inhuman grin spreads across his face to reveal a toothless mouth with something like a furnace burning from his throat. And right before the Overidex gets there, tink.
And the last thing you see is its massive hands reaching out to try to grab you by the shoulders and rip you in half. But you're vanished before it reaches you. And on that note, we will end the mission.
Just as an end mission note, once they return to HQ, Red, with whatever remaining consciousness she has,
Red and Crow are being rushed to medical the second they ping back in. Pike would be present for this.
And Red's gonna look over to Crow and say, "Not a werewolf," and then just fully lose consciousness.
Nicely
Fair
done,
enough.
my friends. Nicely done. I'm very glad I managed to challenge 3 gunslingers with enemies that were neither indestructible nor died instantly. That was my main frickin' goal with this one.
Yeah. The ice spears were a curveball. That took me a second to be like, how
was
can
fun.
I deal with this?
Yeah. So I don't know how obvious this was, but he was piloting the other ones remotely, and therefore when you standoff against
Yeah.
him, it affected all of them.
Yeah.
Ah,
I picked that up.
nice.
But if you only stand off one of
Yeah.
his remote ones, then it only hit that. So, and also his ice magic was
Yeah.
better than all the others. And so when you faced him, he had a much more dangerous ice to deal with. Nicely done, guys. I'd love to hear any questions or thoughts you had about the mission, calls I made, that sort of thing. And then I want to give a brief review of your characters.
So there was one thing in the kitchen that started to get described, and I was like, that doesn't sound quite right. Because when Crow did the first kind of like parkouring off of things, I had assumed that he had parkoured back out like into where the stairwell was.
Yes, he did.
Okay, because like when we had come back to Crow, you were describing that there were still like appliances and like chairs and tables and
Oh,
things.
pardon. I
to
see what you mean.
parkour
He
off
wasn't all the way out of the door. And right next to the door were a handful of counters and tables that he could still use.
of. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Excellent question. Do you guys have other questions about calls that were made, about the plot of the mission, or similar?
I was very surprised, especially with the initial description, that the floating city never came into play.
Indeed, that was I was
Yeah.
completely red herring you guys with that one.
Yeah, it was.
That was just
Just
was
an
fun.
interesting backdrop.
Just
It's
back-
like, oh, that's a neat backdrop. The task is over there.
a call that I wanted to draw attention to as well is when Pike did his first shootout. When you loaded your fingers in and shot, and they had greater impact, that was because based on that was first of all beautiful energy work. It's so fucking sick that this theming behind Pike came into play so
Yeah.
much. But also in
Thank
that
you.
case, you were nerfing shootout by doing that. Part of the benefit is you don't have to reload, and by doing that, you were reloading it, even if with your own body. And so I gave it the trade-off of having the upside of more heat augmented power to help you deal with this icy enemy. And so
I picked up on that. I was
Yeah.
like, huh.
just wanted to make it clear that that was something that I don't even know if you intended it, but like I was like, oh, he's literally nerfing shootout in a sick way, so I'm going to buff it in some way to compensate.
That is just kind of how I play. I will always do the suboptimal cool thing.
You do. It's
Instead
awesome.
of the optimal vanilla stuff.
It's so sick, and because of that, it gives me a lot of room to pay you off for it.
And I just like that that's available in Enclave. That's so cool.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you've engaged with it so beautifully. Another note on the employer, I wanted to make someone who would piss all of you off enormously.
You succeeded.
Yeah.
You
100%.
you somehow managed to make Sheldon Cooper, but worse. And like I didn't think that was possible, but you pulled it off by like making him not only like have a superiority complex, but also just a violent misogynist.
He was meant to be an almost completely irredeemable bastard, just because
Yeah.
I wanted to provoke this group and see if having a completely unsympathetic employer would allow you to go above and beyond with some of your character work, which I think it helped do, to some degree at least.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it so that no one involved was nice or sympathetic, because I find
Yeah.
that to be interesting once in a while to do, you know?
I really enjoyed
that
throwing
was,
in
that was
the
interesting just from a story perspective.
yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed throwing in the wife and like having her as kind of like a contrapoint in it, as like this guy like super sucks. This lady also kind of sucks, but
Also
like she
kinda
has some
sucks.
redeeming qualities.
Indeed, yes.
Like, and so like you can kind of work with her a little more and like sympathize a bit, but like as soon as you're done sympathizing with her, it's smash this guy through a door. Like,
Also of notes, if she had not been like pretty like she wasn't actually that hurt, right? But if she hadn't had like a lot of the wind
Right.
taken out of her sails, if she had got to her suit, she might have attacked Lockspins as well, and so you might have had another enemy to deal with. Do you guys have any other questions about plot or calls made before we do a brief character review? I can give you my focus words, how I brought them in, if that's of interest.
That's always
That
fun.
Well, I
sounds
know how
fun.
mine was brought in. That one's obvious.
Well, colder
Yeah,
than usual
definitely.
was only part of it. Those ice powers, there was actually a much deeper story behind them, but the surface level ice powers, but also that was my inspiration to make Loxpens an irredeemable fucker.
It's an absolute
and
yeah.
everyone else
Just a really cold
right?
motherfucker.
I just wanted to make everyone like have very little care for human suffering and be very self-interested. So there was a couple layers to that. Champion of Chaos, that had to do not only with the way that Gast was attacking, but also had to do with like the ice power backstory, which you guys didn't end up getting into super deep. It also pertains somewhat to Loxpens having literally zero ability to control himself. I thought that would make, if he was like a cooperative, stealthy, intelligent ward, this mission would have been substantially easier. And I was like, wow.
But then he's like screaming at the top of his lungs the entire time, telling everyone where we are.
And
Just
lastly,
being a general inconvenience.
a Jack of None was used to for me to inspire the fact that both he and his son were savants, right? They are a master of a few trades, but a Jack of none. And so because of that, they couldn't fucking tie their own shoes by themselves, right?
That is exactly where I was hoping you would take that, where
Totally.
it's like the Jack of all trades is a master of none, and so I like flipped it on its head, a Jack of none.
Yeah. So that's
So
where I got
you
that.
took that in exactly the way that I was
That was
hoping you
fun.
would.
The last thing I wanted to touch upon is designing for 3 gunslingers. My goal specifically was to make enemies that didn't die instantly, but also weren't invincible, but also were not like right on top of you, so you had time to maneuver and position and get use of your sensory sets, but also could be interacted with by all of you in different ways. And the way I kind of categorized in my head is like, okay, magic enemy, so Crow has something to do. Ice enemies, so Pike, the lowest level character, can shine by having a fire juxtaposition. And then Red just has like the best gunslinger stats, and also seemed, from what I've been told in the past, has the most social playstyle of them. And so I'm going to have people for her to interact with, but also hate, but also maybe get something out of. So that was kind of in my mind how I parsed those together. I hope that translated pretty well, and you all felt like you had stuff to do that weren't just superseded by the other characters.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, definitely.
it was definitely a very fun mission. Like especially like even beyond like being able to act accordingly as Red in this, right? Just watching Crow and Pike operate was awesome. Like
Absolutely.
alongside 2 other gunslingers, it was great.
Couldn't agree
Because
more.
like I've done missions in the past where it's like the first actual play mission that I did with you, that was to Thunderbirds, but there was also an illusionist, right?
Yeah.
So there was like some mix up in what was going on. But this was like, this is 3 straight up gunslingers.
Yep.
And like even just seeing the intense variation between all 3 of our characters and like seeing those played into really well was great.
Yeah, that was marvelous. I couldn't have asked for better. You guys did beautifully, and I counted 4 shootouts and 3 standoffs.
Yeah.
Ah, good. I gave you
and some very solid trick shot work going
yes,
on.
seriously. So I knew that would happen, right? Let's go through your characters. I want to start with Pike. This is his first time being played. What a fucking cool character. Just awesome. You play
His head
him.
explodes sometimes.
Yeah,
Like,
and the best part is you did all this weird shit, and never once was I like, oh no, that's unreasonable because it gives you an unfair advantage. No, like it was almost entirely aesthetic, or you were nerfing yourself in a way that made me want to give you something, right? That was unbelievably cool. The coach gun is a great pick for him. The triple resilience is like sleeper busted on
Yeah.
him. That's
Actually.
awesome.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
it's like, hey, I
was
deal
like, okay,
damage
I
from
want-
afar, but like if you get to me, don't think it's gonna be an easy time.
Yeah, like part of when I was designing these, I was like, okay, I want them all to be melee fighters except for Gast, who can use range stuff. And that way I was like, because, Gunslinger wants to keep him out of range. And I thought to myself, Pike can probably take one being beaten up by one more than the other 2. And I was right about that, because like the
Yeah.
way that you got
Yes.
decked and then just kept shooting was sick. And I think if Pike gets into more standard gunfights, he's just going to be able to tank shots. And that's going to be so, so useful for him. Like,
And I've got like this because like most of building Pike was aesthetics.
Yeah.
If you couldn't tell.
Absolutely. It works.
And so like I had this, I didn't know if we were going to be shot at, so I had this thing in the back burner that I hope I get to use eventually, but like he gets shot and instead of blood coming out the bullet wounds, it's lava.
Oh yeah.
Neat.
That sounds very appropriate. I also wanted to say, his character really came out on this one in this kind of soft-spoken, but holding it back, but trying to keep it together, but then erupting into his lava wickedness stuff. I thought you portrayed it quite nicely. He's a very compelling character, and I really want to see more of him.
Thank you.
Beautifully done. Zach, did you die?
Kind of, not really. I'm trying to send something into chat that's like kind of relevant to Pike's character.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
There's a particular kind of stone called a pyroclast stone. I'm sending an image in chat. That's what I envisioned Pike's eyes looking like, but like filled with lava in those cracks.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yes,
can definitely
exactly.
see it. I definitely see it. I thought that you had kicked your computer for a second like I did.
Oh shit! What the? Hold on. I'm trying to rejoin on my PC, and it's Discord's being a penis. Give me one.
Perfect moment.
Discord didn't like that.
Crow, I want to go over Crow. This is like my fourth time hosting for Crow, and I consistently love him. He has like this combination of being like serious and cool, but also random funny one-liners, and also like when you get in over your head with Crow, which happens like at least once a mission, there's always this moment of like, oh fuck, on this mission it happened twice. And there's this awesome moment of, oh fuck, I feel like I've spent my options. You're like, okay, Hail Mary.
Yeah.
I felt like you had the overall most effective methods for taking down Overidices, and the only problem at the end is you didn't go for the fuel tank first. I feel like if you had gone for that rather than trying to go for the hands and the feet or the shoulders, I feel like you had a much better chance of not getting fucking wrecked.
Almost died, probably. If that had gone like any longer.
Yeah. If you had the extra plus to luck, I was like, oh, you could pitch a bunch of ways to get out of this. But without a plus to luck, it was way harder, and you just had to rely on the sheer non-luck stat-based happenstance of Pike hitting the standoff against the source of the control. Either way,
Got lucky that time.
it was sick watching Crow be pushed to his limits while still also doing your stylish gun kata shit and vaulting all over the place and like taking point and doing Overwatch position. He's just so fun to watch. Bad Penny got used. It was really cool. He's becoming a mainstay of these actual plays, and I always love seeing him. Also, fun interactions with Red. Like we did some bit of stuff at the beginning, and then it was so hectic that we didn't get like a full payoff besides that awesome one-liner at the end. But like the fact that you didn't get to see Pike explode at the same time was probably a good thing.
Yeah. Would have freaked out about that.
And lastly, Red. This is my first time seeing her. I love that she feels so like a combination of like, how to describe it. She has that sort of shonen protagonist feel, but is also way more sophisticated, but is also kind of catty, but is also like has a heart. You know, there's a lot of things going on with her all at the same time.
Yeah, she's very fully her father's daughter.
Indeed, yes. A nuanced individual
Who,
with a mischievous streak.
in one way or another, did end up kind of being a shonen protagonist.
I thought that your gunslinger play was very tight. Like with Pike, we got to see a lot of the sick energy work and some great gunslinger fundamentals for someone exploring the class. Crow I've seen a million times, but given that this is what, your fourth mission on Red?
This is Red's third mission.
Third mission, yeah. You had very good gunslinger play. Like great use of shot placement, great positioning. And I thought that your trick shot at the end, that was like a very, very appropriate and cool trick shot. And the fact that you were willing to like sacrifice something backstory related made me more willing to get rid of, like, to give you more leeway, especially playing off of what you saw Crow do with Bad Penny. Just very, very smart stuff. I just couldn't give you like all of it, you know what I mean? Hence why one had to hit you. Yeah, I
You
think
know, honestly, that was a better story beat than if all of them had broken and we got away
Yeah.
scot-free. It
like
was a significantly better
if it
story
had
beat.
been like a bigger energy work somehow, then maybe I could have seen it. But I felt like it was just more appropriate that way.
Yeah.
I do, however, feel that in addition to her being a really engaging, fun character with good gunslinger fundamentals, something I quite liked is how you took point within the group, because Crow tends to be a support player. Like sometimes he'll lead, but it's pretty usual that he's like either going to do his own thing or like hold back. Pike is an unknown quantity. He ended up doing a lot of proactive stuff as well, but you never know. And so the fact that Red like took a step forward and led the group was good. And Enclave squads often need a leader, as I'm sure you know. But
Definitely.
yeah, do you guys have any thoughts about each other's characters or your own portrayals that you find to be relevant? Because if so, I'd love to hear.
I like the concept of Pike's character and like all of the visual stuff that happens with him
Oh yeah.
is super rad. Like especially because I've been working on like thinking about what the character I was telling you about, Robbie Ordnance, like
Yeah.
the stuff that he's gonna be about. Like just seeing the stuff that can be done, it's like, dude, I'm so excited to be able to play Ordnance once he's like ready to go.
Yeah, totally. Detour, what were you going to say?
Basically echoing that, I think watching Pike was super fun. It's really great when someone can work their backstory into the energy work so super well. It's like such a strong hook to work with. And so it was just like, that's freaking cool. Like, I wish I could do that.
It
I'll
also
have to
left
find
so
ways to
much,
work my
like-
backstory in.
Absolutely. And it also left so much mystery. You're like, this guy is so normal. How the fuck did like this happen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, what happened to him?
It's like this is like a regular guy with some like kind of weird stuff going on, and then suddenly his eyes are rocks. Like, oh,
His head
he's
explodes, apparently.
crying lava.
yeah.
And Dennis, given that this is your second time playing, do you have any other thoughts about Enclave now that you've tried it in two contexts?
My playstyle, no matter what kind of game I'm playing, is very narrative and aesthetic forward, and I love that. I don't know, like, to be honest, you keep saying energy work and you said manifestation at one point, and I'm like, I don't know what these are.
That's
I've
fine.
only played
You
this game
still
once
do
and
it.
it was like 8 months ago. And so I'm glad that like my concepts were able to fit so well into the pre-existing rules, and like the stuff in the actual class was really fun in like making it easier to, it gives me plenty of hooks to like build characters like this on. Like I think the actual starting point for me building Pike was Standoff, when it says that a fresh bullet is conjured into place whenever you
shootout,
cock a
yeah.
firearm, and I'm like, that's yes, shootout. And I'm like, you know what? That's really cool, and I'm going to do something like that, and I want to make it different and unique. So
Indeed.
instead of conjuring it, we're gonna actually do something weird, something else to get the bullet in there. And then looking at Standoff, where you have to be like calm and collected and everything like that during a standoff, that's where the inspiration of like the lava spirit inside him came from. Like when he's in a standoff, he's a different, like actually a different person, not just now same person calm, like there's another mind in there somewhere.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I really strive for with Enclave is making it so that the game is very playable, even to one who has not literally read everything. And the fact that you engage with the game so evenly and naturally is a great sign to me, and also definitely a testament to your quality as a player. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join us again. It's always a pleasure having you on. And same too to Gemini and Detour. You guys are always good to play with. And I think that for our first ever triple of the same class, Trips mission, this went really well. And I think it was actually a very good showcase of the gunslinger action. I think that I will point people to this mission if people are like, oh, so how do you play a gunslinger? It's like, this is how you play a gunslinger. in a bunch of
It's
different
like
iterations.
take one of these three options and just point.
Yep. Absolutely. And so to do our sign-offs, thank you all so much for watching, both in the audience and on YouTube. And I really hope that you've enjoyed. I hope you've enjoyed these fantastic performances. I will be linking all of the socials and links of our three friends here down in the description on YouTube. And also, for anyone who happens to be watching or listening, a reminder that Enclave Day is coming up at the end of the month. This is going to be on Saturday the 28th. It is a 14-hour marathon of Enclave with a whole bunch of conduits who have volunteered to host missions, all like at a bunch of different time blocks, all happening simultaneously. And everyone who attends will be given a PDF for the new Berserker class for free. And so if you're interested in getting a new class added to the game, interested in getting in on a little bit of conduiting or playing action, please do sign up for Enclave Day. We would love to have you there. And if you guys want to say goodbye in the way that you guys, in the same order you signed in, then we will bid our farewells and sign off.
For sure. Well, thank you everyone for watching. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And I'm going to sign off kind of the way I do over on my channel. So to everyone watching, stay funky, keep stargazing. Good night.
Nice. Thank you. It has been a pleasure playing. Thanks to Robbie and thanks to my teammates. And see you at the next one.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for running this, Robbie. Thank you for playing, everybody. And I do have, if you do want to see more of me and some of the games that I get to run, tomorrow we will be running episode 2 of a One Piece game using my own system, Sagas, which stands for Setting and Genre Agnostic System. It is still in development right now, but people that are streaming it get access to like the most up-to-date rules, and that's what we will be using tomorrow for episode 2 of our One Piece game, and we will be raising money for March of Dimes. It will be a charity stream at 7 p.m. Central over on Jess the Human's Twitch channel.
Thank you so much for saying so, and Dennis's system, Sagas, is excellent. I backed it on Kickstarter, and it really can speak to its quality. He and I have spoken a lot about it. All right, my friends, thank you again for your time. You played beautifully, and I hope you had fun. And until we all meet again, my name is Robbie Habel, and ciao for now.